No, me and Leo will do the repping then.
All right. Well, I wish I was there, but I don't. I really want to get it. Check the live stream. Somebody who can check live streams, check the live stream.
Yeah, will do. Live stream. Someone say something.
Something. I'm saying something. Are you hearing something?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's there. It's
there.
working. It's working.
Moss is definitely typing.
Oh, you know it. Library. We may want to, in the near future, do a report on library. A year ago, it was nothing, and somewhere about November, according to its CEO, it stopped sucking and started being awesome. That's LBRY.
Yeah, I know. They were talking about library last night on Biddle. Right, I'm in the. I've got the stream up and I've got the chat room up as well. Put them over there. I better tell Josh that we're in the mintCast in our own server.
I've got over 250 LBC, so yes, I finally do have a cryptocurrency. Of course, 1 LBC equals a little bit less than 9/10 of a cent right now. Who dat?
That's Leo.
Oh. Leo being Leo. I've got to get a better angle here. Or at least a better Saxon. That joke was for you, Tony.
Sorry, I missed it. I was doing something. What did you say?
I was working on my mic and I go, I got to get a better angle here. Or at least a better Saxon.
Oh, dear.
Tony, have you read any Richard R. Moore books? Probably back in your childhood like me.
What did any titles?
He was a humor writer of history. His most famous book was called 1066 and All That.
I've heard of it. I haven't read it.
I was living on humor as a kid because it was the only thing that was funny in my life. So I read a lot of Richard R. Moore and various things. There was one author that wrote the old children's stories in a very phony German, Alice ins Wunderbarland and stuff like that. More recently, I've got a couple books from about 15 years ago where an author took all the nursery rhymes and rewrote them phonetically in French and then attempted to translate them.
Hey, look, it's the super user.
Super user. Oh, he went away.
He will be back shortly as Josh, I am sure.
Ah. So it's only Superboy, not Superman.
It depends on what country you're in.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey,
I joined as a
Josh!
super user by
Yeah.
accident.
Yeah, we noticed.
We commented.
Oh, I can't speak or hear anything through that.
Right.
Ah.
Okay.
Well, I guess it's not so super then, is it?
Not very.
Oh well, that's a blowout. I had a eBay auction that I was following that finishes in just over an hour and a half, and someone's just put a bid in about 10 minutes ago that doubled what I was prepared to.
Oh yeah. Got sniped by a pro.
Oh no!
At least it wasn't in the last
sniping's-
second. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I say. Sniping's when I always put my bid in on the 5 seconds before it's due to close.
Yep. Well, I don't think you're going to be bidding on that one now.
No, it's already gone past what I'm prepared to pay.
Anyhow, you have heard Weird Al Yankovic's song "eBay," right?
No.
Well, you should. It's hysterical. It's based on a Backstreet Boys song.
Oh, right. Okay.
Incidentally, folks, the song for the day is Warren Zevon's "Life'll Kill Ya." And if you haven't heard that, you should, because musically it's a masterpiece.
Okay, gonna take a quick 1-minute break, and I'll be back and ready.
Okay.
Oh, could someone post the link in IRC for me, please, as well?
No.
To the,
I
to the
got.
YouTube?
I forgot I'm doing IRC,
Well-
didn't I?
I can do it anyway.
Well, let me go.
Copy.
I haven't even looked at XChat, but here, XChat, here, boy.
Done. Oh, someone's already posted it. Someone, Brian. Thanks, Brian.
And I am in the Linux Mint. Let's go /join #mintcast. And it gives channel operator status to Zyvala. Yay. I is me.
Okay. Yeah. Tappity tap, tap,
Tappity,
tap, tap,
tappity,
tap.
tappity.
You're just jealous you can't type as fast as me.
Oh, I don't know. I could give you a run for your money.
Well, I'm going to turn my phone off so it doesn't give me any more.
I used to be one-finger typer, but now I can type reasonably well. I've still got to look at my fingers.
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't have to. It
I
just starts to
really-
flow.
Yeah, I really disliked
What's
my
the
my
mumble
typing
info?
teacher.
Someone is asking what's the mumble info rather than Mibbit.
Mumble?
Why
Somebody
we
wants
don't
to
have
log
a-
into the frickin' mumble.
Yeah, we don't have a
we
listening room or
we
anything.
don't we don't let you in the mumble.
Not yet. We should. I think we need to.
Is that on
That
the
might be an easy way to
IRC?
do it.
Yeah.
What are they asking?
The name is I can barely read this. WM_EFDQZ2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just a automatic generated one.
Yeah.
It might be Cherry.
Yeah, they can go to the live stream.
Tappity tap.
Not tap, that's beating.
Yeah, that's true.
That's keyboard
On this
abuse.
little keyboard, you got to be kidding.
He
There's
says,
no
That's
hey,
throw at
hey,
all on this
post
keyboard.
it.
All I'm saying is this live stream is just full of keyboard.
Didn't you just post the live stream?
I did
He's
post
probably
the live
using
stream.
like a little chiclet keyboard, and he's just banging it so hard it sounds like that.
Yeah.
It
That's
is
gotta be
not chiclet in terms of chiclet being soft rubber, but it has very little throw to it.
He's saying your keyboard's made out of bubblegum.
It is not. I would post a picture of it, but I just turned my phone off so I wouldn't get notifications during the show.
I need to swing by the office and grab my MX Cherry Blues and see what happens.
Oh.
Have we got the IRC link? Do we know what the details for IRC is, rather than Mibit?
We're in Spot Chat, mintCast.
Yeah, mintCast channel on spotchat.org. Yeah, something like that.
I can't spell.
We know that, Tony. But that's okay. You're such a good guy. We don't care.
How do you spell channel?
CHANNEL. If you drop an N, you've got perfume.
So it's mintCast channel on
Spotchat.org.
Oh.
Anybody check out PancakeCon today?
No, but there's been a lot of filking going on today. People have been there have been a number of conventions that got canceled, and they're doing live streams all over the place on Zoom or something to make up for the fact that we're missing all these cons.
Yeah, that's what PancakeCon did. I didn't catch any of it, but I'm going to have to see if they got it recorded and available.
They're calling this consolation.
Oh dear.
I don't know. It's probably a pun on both words, cancellation and consolation.
Yeah. Right.
Anyhow, I'm serious. Y'all need to listen to Life Will Kill You by Warren Zevon. If I can find it, you can find it. I could play it during the show. I don't know. Of course, the other song that's appropriate by Warren Zevon, I can't say since we're a family show.
Oh, I guess I should probably get Audacity working here.
I guess you should.
Probably a good idea.
There, I found the way to get the chat here opened.
There we go. Alright. Alright, Moss, mind those tippity taps, because we are live.
I muted my mic. I was good.
Yay! Alright, what do you guys think?
Just
do
checking.
the Audacity stuff.
Alright.
I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Don't know what I'm doing, but I'm ready to go.
Okay, should we do the 3, 2, 1 record in 20, 25 minutes? Seconds, not
Seconds,
25 minutes.
Silence.
25 minutes of silence.
All right.
Hey, our fans would not be good for that.
All right, let's check off. Joe, are you ready?
Ready?
Moss, you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Josh?
Yep.
Leo?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, let's do it then. 3, 2, 1, record. I pinched 26 seconds.
Yeah, well, you said 24 minutes. All right, let's
Okay.
get our zeros in.
Yeah. Okay, everyone ready again? 3, 2, 1, 0.
Zero.
That sounded good.
Not bad at
All right.
all.
Tony, my audio will be maybe a quarter second a little slow.
Mine will be like 3 seconds late starting.
Woo! All
Yeah,
right,
but
I'm not
as
the
long
worst.
as long as you've done the 0, that's all right.
Yeah.
The zero's right on.
Yeah. I mean, the most important thing at the beginning is the silence, so we can get round any extraneous noises.
Oh, yeah. Make sure to say that again during the show. That's what we're talking about today.
It is. Okay, over to you, Leo.
All right. Any last
Get this
minute
show
requests?
on the road.
No?
Or don't get on the road, right? You got to flatten the curve.
Let's get it over with.
Go
There
for
we
it.
go. Welcome to mintCast episode 331. Welcome to mintCast episode 331.5. Livestream information is at mintcast.org/livestream. We're in the mintcast channel in IRC at irc.spotchat.org. If you see something that you'd like to hear about, tell us. Send us email at mintcast@mintcast.org. Join us live on YouTube. Post at the mintcast subreddit. Chat with us on Telegram, Discord, or post directly at mintcast.org. This is Leo, and with me today is Tony Hughes,
Hi, guys.
Moss,
Zoom, zoom.
Josh,
Hello.
and Joe.
Hello.
We're recording on Sunday, the 22nd of March, 2020. First up in our wanderings, I upgrade TLP, Tony Hughes tinkers with LMDE, Manjaro fights with Moss, Josh gets canceled, and Joe works from home. Then in the news, NPM gets acquired, OBS adds a number, Purism and Pinebook have new releases, Basilisk takes us back in time, and GNOME gets new features. In security, Edge is coming, and it's worse than we thought. In our intersection, we talk more about how we do this show. And finally, our listener feedback and a few suggestions. Well, this fortnight, I did a couple of upgrades, and one of those upgrades was updating from TLP 1.1, which is the one in the Ubuntu 18.04 repository, to TLP 1.3. So TLP, for those of you that don't know, are battery-saving profiles and measures that you can install on a laptop, or well, anything battery-powered, I guess. That could be anything, honestly. Anything with a battery. And there were a couple of fixes I saw in 1.3 that seemed to me would give me a bit better battery life. But I've been on this thing for maybe about a week, and maybe I've discharged the battery one time. So I don't have anything to report yet as far as amazing battery life extensions go. But it seems to be okay. I think there might be a calibration time going on with this. So we'll see how it goes. I will report back if it is just mind-blowing. If you never hear anything about TLP, well then it may not be worth your time too terribly much, I guess. So 1.1, since it's in the repository, you have to install the TLP PPA or the TLP repository to be able to upgrade to 1.3. So I'll have a link in check this out in case you want to try TLP out or the new version of it yourself. The other upgrade is I got some Tascam TH02s. Now, these are some over-the-ear headphones that, well, let me rewind a little bit. So I've been using, what are they, Klipsch S2s, I think, that were in-ear modules, so little earbuds, to do all of my editing, and they just annoy my ears. After I'm done with a session, like my little ear hole is sweaty and it's just and irritated, and I didn't enjoy using them a whole lot. They sounded great. That was the best part about them and why I used them so long. But they just did not treat my ears nice. So I would say upgrade, but as far as sound quality goes, the TH02s are probably slightly worse in terms of sound quality. They do really good reproduction, and for those of you that are headphone aficionados may know, they get you all of the sound from the 40 hertz all the way up to 10,000 kilohertz range, and which is decent enough. But I think a lot of the more, I guess, good quality headphones will get you up to 20 or 30 kilohertz. So, and lower than 40 hertz as well. So for those, deep rumblings and all that. But for the show, it's real. I really got these headphones for this show. I don't really do a whole lot of headphones outside of audio editing, and every now and again I'll listen to a song or two or something. So I only spent $16 on them, and I think for $16, these headphones are fantastic. I couldn't ask for anything better, to be honest with you. Except, here's the kicker, and for $16, this is not a knock against these headphones at all. For $16, you couldn't ask for anything better. The ear pads that come with these things. So these are supposedly over the ear, which means that the ear pads are supposed to sit around your ear, not on your ear at all. Well, my ears, I guess, are big. So the top and bottom of my ear, the ear pads sat on the top and the bottom of my ear, and it kind of got irritating, and the ear pads were stiff. Like they were kind of like some kind of memory foam, something or other, but they were really stiff. So it ended up being, I guess, it would get painful after about an hour. So back to the old Amazon, I bought some Brainwaves replacement ear pads. They were the ones that are meant for the Audio-Technica M50Xs. And they are nice and fuzzy like velour and have really, really soft memory foam in them. Oh, they are fantastic. They are awesome. Yeah. I can wear these things for hours now.
Brainwaves makes some good stuff. They're a relatively low cost, really good upgrade to basically any pair of headphones if you're looking for long-term wear.
Yep. What was it? I guess it was, I used it for our past couple of meetings, and secretly I was using them on the last show. But it was just a test, right? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out whether these headphones are going to be amazing for me or not. And it turns out they are, which is why I'm talking about them now after these couple of upgrades. So yeah, Tascam TH02s and then the Brainwaves Audio-Technica M50X replacement ear pads. All in all, I think is about $35. But man, I couldn't have asked for a better set of cans. They are really, really good. But one day, if I really get into audiophile or really want to hear the weensy little things that go on in our audio, I may upgrade to the Audio-Technica M50Xs. They seem to be the most neutral sounding headphones. But for music listening, the Behringer 770s are something that I've been looking into as well. I've heard these on multiple occasions, both of them. And the Behringers just have such a silky, smooth sound reproduction. It's so good. But the Audio-Technica M50Xs just have some of the best neutral. If you want to hear what you're actually going to hear, regardless of what kind of speakers you're running on, the M50Xs are probably going to give you the best reproduction. So I'm leaning toward those because most of what I do is audio editing, but the Behringer 770 sounds so nice. It's just hard for me to say, maybe. So,
and next week, you get laid off and all these dreams go up in smoke.
Yeah, exactly. Lucky for me, I think I'm on contract for a whole year, so I probably now probably won't get laid off. And if I do get laid off, they pay out my contract. So we'll see how that goes. It'll be like a couple of months of paychecks at least.
Has anyone noticed that COVID-19 rhymes with "Come on, Eileen"?
No. So my last little bit is so Tony and I were talking yesterday about doing some distro hopping, and I do mess around with Fedora 31 every now and then. And it's my second distro right now. So this is I run Linux Mint full time, and I just have to keep up with the newer kernels using Uku or something like that. But Fedora 31 kind of does that for me, and I've been considering whether or not to do Fedora 31 and then do the upgrade to Fedora 32, or just jump onto Manjaro and do that from there. Now this is for my desktop. My desktop has what is it? I cannot remember at the moment. The newer video. 5700. So the Radeon 5700 XT. So I need a kernel of 5.5 or newer to get all of the goodness out of it. So that's why I'm Fedora or Manjaro. This is desktop only. On my laptop, I'm fully on Linux Mint. I don't have anything else on this laptop right now. But yeah, so until Mint 20 comes out, I'm gonna try and do a little distro hopping, and Ubuntu 20.04 is in that mix as well because they ship with 5.4, which is good enough to get started, and then I can probably upgrade the kernel from there. So I'm probably going to be trying out all of those at least until June-ish when Mint 20 decides it's gonna make an appearance.
Now, can I get you to say on the air you will come on to Distro Hoppers and do a review?
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll definitely do it. We were talking about that yesterday, and I'm going to be doing all the reviewing anyway, so I might as well do it in audio form.
Yep. You're recorded now, so we've got you.
All right, I'll do the edit this week and cut that little bit out. And...
We'll send Guido and Vito after you if you don't show up.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely do it. I definitely want to do this. I may even do both. So this is the part that I'm not sure of yet. I don't know if I'm going to give you Fedora or Manjaro, or both.
Fedora.
Yeah, I'm already on Fedora, so it's easy for me to just do Fedora. But I've got an extra disk.
Fedora as well, because I reviewed Fedora from 29 to 30. So you doing an upgrade from 31 to 32 would be good.
Awesome. All right.
Yes, but I think I'm set up for Manjaro for this coming episode.
So seems like all signs point to Fedora then, huh?
Yep.
All right. Well, I'll stick with Fedora for a little bit. Lutris plays nice with Fedora overall, so that's really my concern. I can run just about anything if I don't want to play games, but I do. So yeah,
that's one thing we need more of on our show, because Tony and I are not gamers, so we don't know how all these distros play with games.
True that. I'll do a couple of those and throw that in there if I can. All right, well, that's about it for me. So, Tony, what have you been up to?
Okay, well, while the world's been going down the drain, I've still been playing with some model cars. I've just posted a picture in the Discord, in the public section of the Discord, so if you want to go and have a look at the little array just underneath my PC screen, you can do, because there's a picture on Discord. But I've been playing with them. There's another picture as well that I posted a few days ago, so there's another one you can have a look at as well. Myself and Moss recorded our 11th episode of Distro Hoppers Digest. We're just about to celebrate our year anniversary coming up. Woo! We had a bit of a bump because you fellas going with the time shift know, 3 weeks early threw me out, and I nearly missed the time for me and Moss to record because we were.
And since we record it before I go to work, that would have been an issue.
Yeah, it would. But I managed to remember just in time and jumped on, and Moss had to re-log in because he'd just about given up on me. But we got
less than a minute from the time I turned off Mumble, he logged in.
Yeah. I've also been watching Alan Pope's YouTube channel. He did a great tutorial on creating a snap package a few videos ago. He's also done a video that was about the Ubuntu free software only option. So if you're interested in using Ubuntu but you only want free software, there is a way to do it. So go and check out Alan's video about that. And I've put a link in the show notes to Popey's video channel. Also, obviously, because of everything going pear-shaped and being in lockdown, we created a virtual lug yesterday. So myself and Josh joined the lug by Google Hangout.
Does that still exist?
It does. I was surprised as well when it was suggested. I thought we were going to use Zoom, but no, Google Hangout, and it still works, and it was quite good as well. So I still got my lug for over 2 hours without having to leave the house. And then last night, early hours of this morning for me, I joined the Big Daddy Linux Live show and joined in on that. And at the end of it, they've decided the next 2 weeks challenge is going to be Linux Mint Debian Edition. So I said I'd drag one or two of us over to the channel for next week, and Leo's agreed to come along. So that'll be good. I've installed LMDE for myself as it went on from beta to distribution release on Friday. First impressions are quite good. I managed to install the Mate desktop environment after I managed to boot into it. I did have problems with the install. I installed it 3 times, and every time I tried to boot it up after the install, I got an error message saying that there was no active partition. So after the 3rd try, I thought, right, I know it's in there somewhere. So I installed 19.3 as a dual boot, and that installed grub and recognised where the LMDE install was. So I was able to access it. So I've been playing with that for the last 24, 48 hours. And I'm quite impressed with it. Managed to get most of the software and stuff installed, and I shall be reviewing that on Distro Hoppers Digest in a few weeks' time. I had planned to review Anti-X. I'd done what's the other one? MX Linux a few months ago. And I thought, well, Anti-X is the PED is the lighter version of that. I'll install that, put it on my Dell laptop that I use for a testing machine. And although it could see my Wi-Fi card, it couldn't find my network. Scanned the network and it couldn't find it. So as it's a laptop and I didn't want to be trailing a 10-meter cable around the house with me, it wasn't really a credible daily driver. So I ditched it and went with LMDE.
You know, the other half of MX is the Open Mepis project.
Yeah. It's kind of, it morphed from Memphis, didn't it? And or Memphis, or what do you call it? Yeah. So that's where I'm at the moment as far as distro hopping and various things. I've been baking to keep myself occupied and cooking and all sorts of other stuff, but trying to keep my Linux up as well. So Moss, what have you got for us?
Well, as you said, we had another lovely episode of Distro Hoppers Digest. I did manage to get to work on time. Actually, I was 3 minutes late, but they don't care about 3 minutes. I've been going crazy on distros lately. I got Endeavour OS installed on my Galago Pro 2, got all the updates done, then installed Zorin OS Lite to get my grub menu back, to discover that Endeavour no longer boots. Black screen, no cursor or anything. I've tried a few things the guys in the DHD Telegram group suggested, but no luck. I reinstalled and found that I had the grub issue I had before, where each distro installed has multiple entries in the grub menu in varying numbers. Bye-bye to Endeavor. I did report these issues to the Endeavor forum. I got Manjaro to work on my Kudu with XFCE desktop, co-resident with OpenMandriva 4.1 and Farron OS for now. And just Friday morning, I got Mabox installed on the Galago Pro, which gives me Manjaro with OpenBox Window Manager. Since that time, however, Mabox has crashed my machine twice, taking my grub with it and in particular keeping me from being able to boot Mint. So I wiped it and Zorin Lite, deleted a partition on dev SDB, and reinstalled Zorin Lite. In the offing, I wiped KDE Neon, but I have a blank partition. I'm considering installing that too after the show. I wasn't going to do it this morning. No, that's not the time to be installing distros before a show.
What? You mean to say no extreme distro hopping 2 hours before the show?
No, I don't think so. I may be stupid, but I'm not that stupid.
Oh dear, it's terrible.
There are only now 6 distro partitions on the Galago Pro 2, as opposed to the EFI restore and swap partitions. There's 4 on Dev SDA and 2 on Dev SDB. During all this, I discovered there are 19 entries in my EFI boot. I looked for an EFI editor and came up with Refined, which so far does not look like an EFI editor, but rather a grub EFI replacement. I can get to my grub menu through option 7, and I've identified which of my current installations boot from options 1, 2, 3, 18, and 19. The menu would be more informative if I could enter the entries to better identify them. Most either have an Ubuntu logo or a Penguin logo, except Mint has a Mint logo, the old one. Until further notice, yeah?
Is that the different kernel versions? All the different 1 through 19, is that all the different available kernel versions?
No, the 1 through 19, I'm just counting them as there are that many logos on the screen. It's a horizontal screen I have to scroll left to right on. But there are 19 total entries. Each one is identified by what kernel is on that entry, but it's not identified by what distro is on that entry.
Okay, well, it maybe, and I'm not certain on this one. What you could do is go into each of your distributions and do sudo apt auto remove, and that will remove all the old kernels and get rid of their grub entry, because it's actually a kind of a safety feature. So that way, if you do a kernel upgrade, the old kernels are there, so you can try and load up from an older kernel.
Joe, all these entries are distros that used to be on this machine and are no longer.
Okay.
Okay, I've identified the ones that work. I've got some idea of which ones are which. For instance, I know there's a Pop OS on there. Anyhow, until further notice, I have no idea how to edit the zombie distros from the EFI menu. Stay tuned for further details. I was surprised to hear the Destination Linux team finally found Stacer in episode 164. I'm pretty sure I've been talking about that for nearly a year, and I'm not a self-proclaimed expert on Linux. I got my first sponsors. It's probably somebody I know, but they used a handle and their profile is not filled out, so I may never know. Welcome, SK Beans. Every $3 is a help. On top of that, I sold another CD of my music, and I'm busy setting up my music videos at Library, LBRY. Otherwise, things have been oddly lifelike. My wife and I are nearly halfway through Grave Peril, as discussed in previous shows. My boss is under stress from upper management. COVID-19 has cut our business by more than half, but I'm still working 5 days a week until at least the state finally decides to go to lockdown. Tennessee is one of the last 3 states to make no mandatory closures of any kind. School systems are closing, but it's by their own choice, not by the state telling them they have to. There are a lot of dining rooms that are closed, some in chains, some just individual companies, but all that is by choice. So I can't go into Taco Bell and get my free sodas as I always do. Anyhow, my mother is still doing as well as any 90-year-old deserves to be doing, and everything else is in a holding pattern. So we welcome back to our show, Josh. What have you been up to?
Well, quite interesting. So the reason I'm back so early, because the last time I was on, I was saying it would be June before I'm back. And the reason I wasn't on the show is that I had what we call GCSEs here, which are like final year exams at high school, like before you leave to go on to college, and they've been cancelled because of the whole thing that's going on in the world right now. So I now have 5 to 6 months of doing my own work before I go on to what I'm going to do next. So all of a sudden, when you started preparing for exams like I did, they all get cancelled. But it's not the end of the world. I now have some time to do what I want to do, and finish up all of the things that I've wanted to get done, but haven't been able to because of exams. So we'll see how that all goes. I'm not sure anyone really knows what's going on in the world right now. But there we go. So yeah, that's all done. So I left school on Friday. It wasn't very much of a leaving day because they didn't really have time to prepare anything. Because it was like literally they announced that schools were going to close, exams were cancelled 2 days before we left. But yeah, I'm not complaining because I get 5 months off, so that's nice. I installed on my ThinkPad Ubuntu 2004 just to kind of test it out. Obviously, it's not a stable release yet, but it was interesting to have a look at that. And the new appearance menu in settings is quite nice. To be able to toggle through light mode and dark mode and all of that. And the new folder icons are actually really nice. The I think gradient style type of thing. The only problem I found is that on the login screen where you type in your password, it's like, I don't know if anyone's tried it out, but it's like shifted to the right a bit. I don't know if that's a design decision or like a bug, and it does the same on the actual laptop and a virtual machine as well. So it's obviously something that's gone on, but it just doesn't look right. Maybe it's something they've decided. Does anyone know about this?
Josh, I tried Ubuntu Budgie 2004 in advance, and the problem I was having is you click that box on installation saying to automatically boot without entering your password, and when you go to automatically boot, it doesn't automatically boot. It still asks for your password. So
weird. I didn't actually select that option, so I don't know if that's the same on the standard version. But that box is off for some reason. I don't know why. I might have to ask people at Ubuntu if they know what's going on with that.
Yeah, you probably should.
Yeah.
How do you like the new GNOME? We're gonna talk about that here in a little bit. And what's your take on it?
It's nice. So the last Ubuntu version I used was, I think it was 17. And the reason I moved was that I went from 16 to 17. I'm not quoting the numbers after that because I can't remember. It was a few years ago. And it broke the mouse support on my laptop, so I just wiped it and installed something else. I can't remember what I installed, and I just never went back to it. But then I was seeing the stuff on Twitter, all these YouTube videos of people posting about Ubuntu and stuff. And the thing I really like about it is the removal of the flicker when it starts up, and it actually shows your laptop manufacturer logo like Windows does. And it doesn't flicker at all now, like every other operating system does. It's just a smooth kind of like transition from the power button to get into the desktop, which is quite nice. So that was quite a nice feature, and basically why I wanted to try it out. So they've done quite a good job there, I think. But yeah, the desktop's really nice. I haven't really done much customization to it like I normally do, but I'll probably get onto that quite soon. So yeah, it's nice. And the only reason I installed it dual booted, with it not being stable, you're probably asking like why I'd even do that on my main laptop, is because I normally run for Linux stuff. I found myself using Windows subsystem for Linux a lot now, just because it's easy not having to, reboot my machine to get into the different things that I want to do. Obviously, there's still some features missing that I have to go back for, but yeah, for what I need it for, it's all right. The next thing is I started a new podcast called mintCast, which is you probably know that I do a lot of stuff with a microbit. It's a microbit tech podcast. So rather than being like a boring educational podcast, it's going to be more about development and kind of like tech side of the microbit that people might not necessarily be familiar with. So even if you're not interested in the microbit itself and its main goals, you might be interested in the actual like computer side of it.
So a boring technical podcast.
Yeah, you could. We're trying to put. So the way we're doing it is, we actually do say at the our little intro bit, that it's a boring technical podcast, but we're going to put like a chat style thing onto it, so it's not like going to be boring, but we're going to try and make it fun, however we do that. So yeah, it should be fun, and we're going to get lots of guests on for every show.
Who are you doing it with?
So Kerry, who is the editor, well, the main editor of the Micromag, which is the people. Well, Micromag is what I'm part of, and that's what's funding the startup of this new podcast. So we'll be the two main presenters, but each show we're going to have someone different from the microbit world. So the first episode is with the Microbit Foundation's educational content manager, and he's worked hard on the development of the new website and their new remote learning tool, which they didn't actually plan the release to be at the time where all these schools were shutting down. It just so happened that their new remote learning tool that they've been building for the past year was released when there was a global virus going around. So that's kind of handy for them. So we'll be doing that, and we may have some other people come on. So it should be fun. It's kind of like a little side project.
I cross-posted your link to a couple other Telegram groups. One person did comment back that there is another podcast out there called mintCast right now.
Yes. So theirs is a video games podcast. So the reason we went with mintCast is we had about 5 names, and they didn't really sound good. And every name that we came up with was just taken by someone else. So we just got to the point where it was like, we got to, if they're all taken, so let's just go with it. I mean, they're very different in what they'll be, so I don't think there's going to be too much overlap. But there was nothing really much we could do. I mean, there's lots of Pi podcasts, for example, called Pi Podcast. So we decided that it should be all right. But of course, if there are any major complaints, we'll have to look into it. But for now, I think we'll be all right with that.
We all know nobody wants to be called mintCast but us. Except we've complained on this show about 2 other podcasts out there called mintCast.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it was. I mean, Micromag, which is a magazine we've been running for 2 years. I won't actually mention what the other thing is because it's not really appropriate. But there is other stuff called Micromag, which is definitely not related to what we're doing. But it's just one of those things. You get to a point on the internet where everything is taken, so you got to kind of make something up, which is, I think, what we just settled with there. So that should be fun. We also released a new magazine, which was about the 5 microbit features. So we're going to kind of ramp up production on the magazine, hopefully, because obviously I'm not at school anymore, so I'll have time to do that. And I've also been playing around with doing some video tutorials of like coding and development, and I've been using OBS to do that. So it's just a quick hit record and then publish the video, which is really handy because I sometimes go overboard when I do video stuff and then just give up halfway through because it's taking too long. So that was a nice, easy, quick way to do that sort of thing.
Hey, so I'm actually kind of interested in stuff like that. So at the end of this, stick this and check this out. I'll check that out.
Yeah, I'll put my playlist that I've been doing. There's only 2 videos that are published right now because I've got to sort through the rest of them. But yeah, they take literally 5 minutes to do, and they're quick and easy. So if you, for example, if you found something cool in Linux and you just wanted to share it, you can put a title screen, a main screen, and then an outro screen on the OBS scenes tab, and you just click through them, press record, and it looks like you've already edited it. So yeah, I'll put the link to that. They're just quick and easy to do, rather than like taking hours to edit everything. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Oh, that makes it my turn. Because I've been spending a lot of time at home, and even before the lockdown, I was mostly at the office by myself because we had already switched to a half on, half off schedule, and most of my team was out when I was in. So lots and lots of new book series. Finally went out and found some new stuff to listen to. The first one on my list is the Las Vegas Paranormal Police Department Ian Dex novels by John P. Logsdon. Very short books, a little bit puerile, but I did listen to the whole series. Really missing a lot of details, but still really enjoyable. Next is the Hex series books by Craig Zerf and Mia Darian. Very short, not quite as juvenile, but very tropish. I really felt like I was reading a mixture of The Last Dragon and The Lone Ranger. As weird as that sounds, for being set in like New York City in modern times. So urban fantasy on that one. The next book series, this was a longer book series. I think it was 13 books and the author's still going. The Bowl of Souls series by Trevor H. Cooley. Very sword and sorcery. Really liked it. And I am going to take a look at the author's other works. I understand a lot of people say that they're not as good. But I am interested, so I will check out the other things that he's written. And then there was the Metal Mage series by Eric Vale. I really, really struggled through the first book, and I didn't even bother to read the second book. It was horrible. I cannot recommend it. Very teenage, pubescent fantasy. Mixture of technology and magic, and it will be the last time I get any book with harem in the description.
Ooh.
Yeah, I would have read the second book to see if it improves, but the reviews say that all the books are basically the same, and it's really bad. And then I just, before the show, finished up another series called Hammond's Hard Cases. Sorry, I don't have the author's name handy right this second. Sci-fi books. It's a trilogy, really good. I enjoyed it. I listened to it all the way through. I'm not going to call it spectacular, but I don't have any complaints about it, which was a great improvement over Metal Mage. And then with the self-isolation stuff going on, I guess everywhere except, where Moss is, my kids are hating it. They're bored senseless. They want to get out of the house. They want to do more. I'm working from home now. It has its ups and downs. I need more electronics to work on. I'm bored. I need things to solder or to just troubleshoot and fix. Send me an email if you have something that you think I might like to work on. I'll talk about it on the show if you send it to me and see if I can fix it.
Incidentally,
that sounds like...
Oklahoma and Mississippi also do not have any mandatory things. I'm sure that's where you'll be seeing the cases spike.
Yeah. Well, the as far as sending Joe stuff, I swear this sounds like a really awesome section that we're gonna have coming out in the next few weeks or something. That's a really good idea.
If you send me stuff to fix, I will make a section on it.
That's cool. So I'll put that out there. I want to see if there's any takers on that.
Okay. Well, I also need to get back into weightlifting at home. It's been a while. I guess I've gotten just way too comfortable at the gym. I used to lift at home all the time. I've still got all the equipment. I just got to get back into that flow. It's really messed up my timing because I was going to the gym at lunch at work, and now all I have is my home equipment. So I'm stuck with a gazelle and 300 or 400 pounds worth of weights. So I'm studying some on 3D printers, but I still need to take mine apart and put it back together. I may do some upgrades at the same time. I do want to mention that K-Wisher was very helpful. He was on this last Friday's the Linux Lugcast. I really appreciate his input on that. He's got a lot more experience with 3D printers than me. Check out that show. We did some good discussions on 3D printing and some alternate fixes. I also ordered a broken monoprice Bluetooth DJ headset. But because of the way shipping is right now, since nobody's leaving the house, it's going to be probably Thursday or Friday before it gets to me, and I ordered it a week ago. It'll be a different fix for me, but I don't think it's going to be really hard because the left side is out, and looking at the pictures, I can see that the charging circuit and battery is on one side and all the controls are on the other. So what's most likely happened is that the cable that goes all the way across, in this case, I believe it would have 5 connections, the left channel is out. It might just be broken on the end and a resolder will work. Otherwise, I'll have to replace the whole cable. And while it's not complicated, it is difficult. I still got a really good price for it on eBay, and even if I can't fix it, I'll still use that top band. And I fixed that other pair of Turtle Beach Z2s with a broken band. I was able to find the same company that I ordered the last band from, and they did post some more on eBay. I ordered it, but I do want to mention that costs like $13 for that set, and I got the monoprice ones for $10. So a little bit better price. And I think today after the show, I'm going to spend some time setting up multi-boot on the Pi 4 using Berry Boot. There are a couple of operating systems available for the Pi 4 now, and I want to see if I can add some of the other ones that aren't natively a part of Berry Boot.
Yeah, my friend Robbie Warren just commented to me that Berry Boot is the only thing I'd want to use on a Pi 4.
Yeah. I had some issues the first time I tried using it, but that had to do with the hard drive that I was using not being on a powered USB. So hopefully I'll be able to get it set up now. And I'm still enjoying Fedora on the 7140. I haven't switched to anything else yet, but I do have my eye out for the next distro that I want to put on there, since it's my testing machine now. And also back to the working from home thing, I installed Citrix Receiver on my garage computer so that I can work out there when the kids are getting loud inside the house. I've set this up before. It's what I have to set up on all my Linux machines if I want to do any work from home. It's still an interesting setup because you have to install the Citrix Deb, and then there's almost always this SSL error or a cert error. And I've put in the command to fix that in the show notes. So if you are using Linux and you're using Citrix Receiver to remote into work and you get that SSL error, the fix is here. Too bad it's been way too cold and way too much pollen outside for me to work in the garage comfortably. The pollen around here right now, I don't know if, Leo, if you're having the same problem, but the tree pollen is just killing me.
A couple of days ago, it was absolutely the worst.
Yeah.
And, like with all of the crazy stuff that's going on right now, I'm like, oh
You
my
have to
God,
worry.
I have it.
Right?
That's it. And I mean, lucky for me, I don't, but
How many
allergies are so
people
bad
see
it feels
Citrix
like.
and can only think of CPU?
Oh,
Used to be a brand of competing with AMD.
no, I hadn't heard of it. No, but the pollen's so bad, it feels like somebody's sitting on my chest, and it's like, is it just allergies or am I really sick?
yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
no fever, I'm good.
Yeah. We have so at the hospital we saw they had one of these when my daughter was born, they have these little ones that they put on your head. They just rub it across your head. It beeps a couple times and it tells you what your temperature is. So we ended up buying one of those, and it's coming in so handy right now. Anytime you feel like anything coming on, you just like beep 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 beep, and you're okay. I'm fine. It's okay. At least for now, it's okay.
And I
I
think
was
they
wrong,
said,
Joe. It's a Cyrix I was thinking of.
Okay, and I think they said between 87 and 93% of all cases of coronavirus has fever along with it. So it is possible that if you don't have a fever, you might still have it. It's just extremely unlikely.
Yeah.
Well,
But
this whole thing about not testing unless you have symptoms is totally wrong according to the countries that are really doing good testing, because
No,
it
I
can
agree.
take up to 3 weeks before the symptoms show. And in that 3 weeks, how many people could you be infecting?
Well, like my dad recently just got out of ICU for an upper respiratory infection and pneumonia, but they wouldn't test him. And it's the same reason a lot of people are complaining about with the testing process and how it's being limited, is that the criteria for getting tested is to, one, be sick, and two, have been around a person, or no, it's one, have gone to a country where the infection is known to be, and also two, you need to have been in contact with someone or have been in contact with someone that tested positive. But if they're not testing anybody, then how can you have been near someone that tested positive?
We just want to be able to say that we had fewer infections than other countries.
Right, exactly.
But if you're in the US, you've automatically been in the country that's got the infection because the US has got it.
Yep, exactly.
Right.
Well, at this time, the last numbers I saw were there were 70 cases in Tennessee, and Tennessee's a pretty big state for 70 people to be infected. But if there's 5 times that or 20 times that, and we just haven't tested them, then that's a different issue.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's only known cases, isn't it?
All right. Well, maybe people tune in so they don't have to hear about the virus.
COVID,
all right, so let's move on from that.
19 Telluride, COVID.
All right. I reinstalled Windows on a T100 TA. It was my daughter's old one. She wasn't using it anymore because I got her that HP convertible. And I'm thinking about using it to replace this 11-year-old Toshiba laptop that I was using as a set-top box. It's actually my wife's laptop. It's just really old. It only has VGA out. It's kind of cruffed up. It needs the operating system completely replaced. So I also want to see if the Toshiba can do better and have lower power consumption. I'm thinking that I'll probably need to use a powered USB hub, but that's okay, since it's going to be plugged in all the time. It's not really going to be draining the battery, and I should be able to use the 2.1 amp out from a quality powered USB hub to keep the battery charged on the tablet. And I did have to use Whoa USB to set up the Windows image. So I did try Image Writer, and then I didn't try Etcher. What other application was it that I tried? Unet Boot-in, but neither one of those would allow me to actually boot from a USB. But Whoa USB did it on the first try.
Yeah, last time I used Whoa USB, it didn't work for me. I had to go into a Windows machine and use that to set up a Windows 10 USB key.
Yeah. You got to remember to use the FAT32 option and not the NTFS option. So that I know that's kind of counterintuitive because NTFS is Windows. So, but you need the FAT32 in order to be able to use the Windows ISO on Whoa USB.
I thought FAT32 would only write files up to 4 gig. And the new Windows ISO is over 5 gig.
Yeah, let me bring up Whoa USB again and make sure. Okay, it doesn't say FAT32, it just says FAT.
Right. Okay, so it might be exFAT.
Yeah. Yeah, the two file systems options are FAT and NTFS, and you have to leave it on FAT to make it work right.
Okay, I'll try that next time.
But yeah, and it looks like it's working good. It'll take some long-term use before I can really make a decision, and I do need to. I know the old laptop had an old copy of Microsoft Word on it, so I'll either have to get a copy of Word, or because I really don't want to buy Office. But that's what I've been up to for the last 2 weeks.
Plenty of open source options to Office.
That's true. That's true. The problem is, I wouldn't mind having LibreOffice on there. I might put it on there anyway, but LibreOffice doesn't always translate everything real well to Microsoft Office.
I use only Office on my desktop, and that seems to work quite well.
Hey, supposedly, LibreOffice 6.4 is touting better Microsoft compatibility since some previous versions. So if you're not running on 6.4, maybe try it again.
Here's the other thing, I'm willing to give that a try, but I'm not the one that gets the final say on this.
Oh, sure.
This is, going to be a replacement for the wife's machine. And this is so that the kids can do homework in the living room if they need to.
Oh, just use Office.
It needs spousal approval, and generally the open source stuff, because of the issues we've had with LibreOffice in the past, like 5-10 years ago, she's not really accepting of it. So,
oh, that's fine. I mean, if give it a shot. I think it's definitely worth a shot to see whether or not it works. But I mean, in cases like that where it's got to work and it always has to work and it can't not work, just use Office. You've just got to use Office.
If it needs to be compatible with Office, then it's usually better to use Office. Although Word, even though it's extremely old now, does still work really well.
Yeah. All right, well then that'll do it for our wanderings. We'll head down to the news now. So in the news, we've kept it pretty tight, I think. We've got about 6 articles to go over, and there's a little bit of Microsoft in both the news and security. So let's start with the top one. NPM is acquired by GitHub. So I know the title says Microsoft, but GitHub is really the one that actually acquired NPM. So I get why it says Microsoft, though.
Because GitHub is owned by Microsoft.
True that. But I haven't seen yet. Outside of the conspiratorial nature of last show's, what was it? There are now 4 Microsoft linked people on the board of the Linux Foundation. So I haven't seen them do anything just yet. Are they biding their time, just waiting and waiting?
Well, it has been pointed out on other shows that Microsoft has so far been doing a very good job of managing GitHub. They haven't done anything evil that anyone can see. So we're not saying that NPM is now evil. We're just saying that NPM is now acquired by Microsoft.
I thought you were going to say, we're not saying NPM is evil. We're just saying NPM is not evil yet. that feels about
You
right.
said it. I didn't.
Yeah, I did. Actually, you need to take that. We need to take that quote and put it at the front of the show. That one's got to be there. So, I mean, it's looking good. To be honest with you, it's looking good. I don't really see any reason why this is going to go sideways. It seems like open source stays open. And, I mean, input is input. So it's all good so far. So next up, we have OBS Studio 25 is released, and the big flagship feature of this one is that now it can capture Vulkan games. So this is really cool, especially for people that are trying to do any kind of Linux streaming, game streaming, or any of that kind of thing to YouTube or whatever. So OBS now makes this available for you. That is really cool. I'm really excited to see kind of how OBS continues on, just simply because they got that injection of cash a while back, and it seems like it's already starting to pay off. It's really interesting. Then next up, we have Purism launches the Librem Mini. So Moss, outside of cost, tell me why I want this and not the Mint box.
Well, why would I know that?
I don't know.
The one feature that they say that we have an It's Foss article linked in the show notes, which basically says, well, all the things that Purism has been doing. They don't say anything negative about them, although everyone else out there has something they can say negative about the way Purism is managing to operate. This one is at least not just a rebranded Intel NUC. They appear to be either designing it themselves or they bought from a vendor that is not Intel. Let's see, it's got an i7, the base model for $700 has a i7 8565U Whiskey Lake with an active fan, 4 cores, 8 threads, 4.6 gigahertz max. Got Intel UHD graphics, got RAM up to 64 gigs. Got one SATA 3 6 gigabit per second SSD/HDD slot. One M.2 SSD SATA 3, NVMe X4, and all kinds of other good things. We got 4 USB 3 slots, 2 USB 2 slots, and 1 Type-C 3.1. 3.5 millimeter audio jack. Hey! all these phones that don't have audio jacks anymore. Although this is not a phone. Bluetooth, it weighs about 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds.
So here is this is my kind of, I've never heard of this before, but my kind of view on it is that for $700, for 8 gig of memory, 250 gig SSD, and all of that, I don't know. It just seems a bit overpriced for the base model.
Well, that is the way Purism generally runs. The top of the line model will be about $3,000.
It's reminding me a bit of the Mac Pro.
They have a pre-order goal of $50,000, and they plan to start shipping the units a month after reaching the pre-order goal. So they're basically crowdfunding this, just not using a crowdfunder.
Okay, the major difference between this and the Mint box is this is the size of a NUC. And the current iteration of the Mint box, I think it's the Mint box 3, is basically a full-size tower. Well, not quite a full-size tower, but close.
Yeah, it's like one of those bookshelf ones.
Yeah, what's the price comparison, Joe?
Cheaper.
The mint box is actually more expensive.
Yeah, by a lot. But I think you can get the
It's
Libram
also
up to that point.
yeah. It's also it's also just higher end hardware on the mint box because it's full size.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest differences between this and the mint box is that the mint box is actually going to come with a discrete graphics card. So if you want to actually do any gaming on it, then the mint box will probably be your better choice. But as far as if you just want yourself a desktop that does, all your normal browsy type things that does not include gaming, or at least includes very light gaming at lower resolution or lower graphics settings, this Librem will be all right for you.
Well, just remember the Librem Mini specifically focuses on the privacy and security of its users. It comes with Pure OS, Pure Boot, and Librem key support.
Now, the Pure Boot thing, I think you can use the Librem key without I think having a Librem device. But as far as Pure Boot goes, that is something that is kind of nice because that is just firmware that you can trust, I guess, as long as you trust Librem or you trust open source. So that's nice. That is a nice touch.
For me, it just seems you're paying for the fact that it's in a small form factor. There's you can buy a desktop PC that will be actually better than these specs, and you've got more wriggle room for upgrading in the future for half the price.
Yeah.
Well, the problem with Purism is that they don't have the funding up front. They are trying to pay their staff. And I don't know what they're paying their staff, but they're trying to pay a staff that doesn't have any income coming in until they sell something. And so the whole crowdfunding thing, they've taken a lot of flack about, mostly because of their communication style not being anywhere close to what the Pine 64 people have.
Yeah, I'm sure that the prices on the Nooks that are similarly spec'd are going to be about the same, if not more expensive.
Yep, you're actually right on that. A lot of the Nooks are about this price for about this type of hardware, so it's not really out of the norm.
Here's a Intel Nook on Amazon with an i7 8559U for $845. And 16 gigs of RAM, 256 gigabyte SSD.
So pretty comparable because it sounded like a slightly slower maybe processor, but more RAM. So yeah, not bad at all actually. Yep. I wonder if maybe Librem doesn't communicate well because they have such a focus on privacy. They're not trying to share anything with you, not even stuff you should know.
That's kind of hard for an open source company to get away with.
Let's see, they just make you go dig up the secrets. That's all. You want to know about this? Well, here's our GitHub. Good luck.
All I can say is if anyone wants to donate me a Pinebook Pro, I'd be happy.
Speaking of Pinebook Pro, I'm really, really considering getting one. But what's gonna stop me is the low poweredness of it. However, the battery's gonna last forever. So anyway, I'll stop. The Pinebook Pro relaunches with Manjaro. So that $199 laptop that has amazing battery life and released, what was it, a few months ago, at least in its first issuance, comes back around again and ships with Manjaro KDE edition as the default operating system.
Yeah, they've been talking about having new issues of the Pinebook with a different distro on it. I think their next one's going to be Ubuntu GNOME.
Ooh, that will be cool. So one of the cool things is Kodi works out of the box. 1080p movies play well in Firefox, and games like Quake 3 and Open Arena are running at full 1080p 60 frames per second. Like, wow. That is way better performance-wise than I would have expected.
Remember, people, this processor is the same thing that you can find in some phones.
Yeah,
it's a Chinese version. It's not the oh, come on. My brain went out. I will shut up now.
Pine 64 has this same chip in some of the Rock Pros or Rock whatevers they have. That's basically the Raspberry Pi competitor, but beefy.
Yeah, but
it's an all-winner chip. That's what I got.
Who leaves on the stock ROM? I mean, stock operating system.
So I'll give you this one. I'll give you that. 99.999% of the time, I'd never do that. But I have really been considering Manjaro, if you listen to those wanderings a little while ago. And the other thing is that, man, I am such a sucker for KDE. I've been rooting for KDE for more than a decade, and I need them to win. I need them to win something, because right now, and I was going on about it a few shows ago, but the blur in the terminal, I need that in my life, and I can't have it outside of KDE.
Well, KDE has had its place for a long time now, and wasn't it one of the first desktops with proper high DPI support?
And it was just one of the first desktops, period, like ever.
Right, it was only about a month after GNOME first came out.
Man, yeah.
On the other hand, they really shot themselves in the foot with version 4, but oh well.
Well, they've come back around. 5 has never ceased to amaze me. It's just better and better every iteration. I mean, pretty much it's like GNOME now. The focus is there now.
Yeah, I'm usually running Neon, and I've got Farron OS on one of my computers, which has a modified version of KDE Neon, or KDE Plasma, modified to use some Mint tools, which I think is extra cool. And, of course, Open Mandriva 4.1's on both of my computers running KDE Plasma.
Yeah, well, so it sounds like anything that has an ARM version is going to run just fine on one of these laptops, but it's getting harder and harder. I resisted it the first wave because I was like, they're new, they're probably not they're gonna have some issues with them or whatever. They'll refine them and come out again. Well, they've refined them and come out again, and it's getting really, really hard for me to say no to this thing. It just looks so nice.
$199 for an operating laptop with that kind of battery life. If I weren't so poor, I'd be buying 3 of them, you know?
Yeah, they're really looking good.
I don't need another device. I keep telling myself this. Quit trying to convince me.
You're lying to yourself, Joe.
Yeah, none of us do. We'll get some. All right. Well, after all of that, we got moving back in time instead of forward. We have Basilisk. Basilisk is a browser that is pretty much just Firefox Classic. It's got the classic look before they made the Quantum change. Quantum, I think that's what it was called. And they've still got the Zool base. So this is going to use the older extensions. It's got the old look. If you remember Firefox from prior to about version 60 or so, this is Basilisk. So if you're looking for that old look and feel, or you have extensions that you miss and you can't do without, and you're tired of waiting for someone to recreate that extension, this is what you want. Basilisk, the open source Zool-based web browser.
It looks really cool, but what's the privacy level?
Same as the old Firefox, I guess.
Is this a fork or a clone?
It seems to me to be a fork, and it's by people that already do forking. It's the Pale Moon devs. So that's already a fork of Firefox.
It's a fork.
Right, because it says it can use legacy extensions. So it's a fork.
Well, so here's the thing. Here's the thing about those legacy extensions. My security spidey sense, my security spidey sense just like started tingling, and these extensions aren't going to be getting updates. So if there were flaws in these legacy extensions, there are going to continue to be flaws in these legacy extensions, and they are going it'll never get fixed unless for some reason the dev of that extension picks up on this and goes back and tries to update all of the weirdness that came with that older code. So
yeah, remember we're looking at a version that looks like Firefox 40-something.
Yeah, so
and
be careful with this.
90% of the upgrades in Firefox have been security features. There's a reason for that.
Well, yeah, I mean, everything is security features because, otherwise it's just, this looks weird.
Yeah, you're also going to have to be familiar with installing from a tarball because there doesn't seem to be a deb available or an RPM.
Yep, that seems to be about it.
They named it Basilisk. Does that mean that if you use it too much, your computer will be turned to stone?
Yeah, maybe.
Seems likely.
So I'm looking at it now. You won't need to compile. It looks like there's an executable file. Oh, it's like app image, but bad. You basically download the whole thing, extract it into wherever you want it to run from, and then basically double click on the Basilisk executable. It doesn't do an install; it just runs locally from that directory. So won't be too hard, but you do have to put a little work in to actually get it to work.
I wonder if we can find a Docker image of it. That would make it a lot more secure.
Yeah, I imagine you could. You know what? I say that. I don't know how popular this is going to be. Firefox has only gotten better over these years, so I don't know how willing people are to go back just for some old extensions. All right, and the last little bit, and hopefully Josh can chime in a little bit on this, GNOME 3.36 Gressic release. So this is the newest version of GNOME that has come out, and as far as I understand, unless Ubuntu is a little on the slower side, this is what you're looking at in Ubuntu 20.04 right now, because it's basically rolling at the moment.
Yeah, it's hit. So on the page that's actually linked in the show notes, it's really weird because the password box under the lock screen heading, there's actually an image of the thing I was talking about earlier, and I can't quite make out by that image if it is slightly to the right or not.
No, it is. You're right. It's absolutely to the right.
Yeah, I don't know why that is because it doesn't look right, does it?
Okay, and it blows my mind. All right, so you're right. The password box is slightly shifted to the right, and then right below that image, they say a lot of design went into improving the login and unlock experience in the GNOME in GNOME this release. Except it's off.
It's annoying. I'm actually gonna like after this news section, I'm actually gonna like measure it on this image just to prove if it's me or not. Because that's I don't know, that's annoying me now. But yeah, there's some nice new changes to it altogether.
You know, I hadn't noticed it until you brought it up, and now it's just going to set off my OCD every time I use that 7140.
Yeah. What's the problem? It's in the center of the screen.
It's so it's actually better on that image, but it is slightly to the right. But when you use Ubuntu, it is really noticeable.
Yeah, I mean, just the password box. You put like little rulers or something like that, or throw that image into GIMP, and you can do rulers, and you can see exactly what he's talking about. The password box, the thing that has the blue circle around it, is slightly. And I mean, if you're just glancing at it, you don't notice it. But if you're staring at the thing, you can actually see that it's slightly shifted, maybe 5 pixels, maybe 10 pixels to the right. And yeah, now that's just something you can't unsee now.
I think the OCD's coming out here.
So
that's CDO. CDO, you got to have it in alphabetical order.
I've just put some. I've just put it in PowerPoint and put some equal-sized boxes at the end of the circle, and I'll post it on the Telegram group and Discord so people can see what I'm on about.
Please.
But yeah, it's noticeable when you got those boxes.
Either I thought you were just crazy before, but either we're both crazy or you're right. Well, outside of that, I mean, you've got some really cool things like the Do Not Disturb toggle. The extensions are now part of the operating system. So for the longest time, you had these two groups. You had the GNOME devs, which were like, no, we don't need extensions. If you want to do extensions, you're going to have to do it some other way, and we're not going to support it. To now, there's an actual extensions app built right into GNOME where you can turn them on and off and configure them, where this was squarely in the realm of GNOME tweaks. So that is really cool. New lock screen.
I'm not sure the GNOME devs know what they're doing because they kept saying, well, if you want to do that, write an extension, and then the next version would break everything that the extension ran on.
Well, a lot of times it was the fact that the extension just didn't update some of the numbers inside of the thing. Like it was there to kind of prevent old extensions from breaking the new stuff. And a lot of times you would just have to update just really, really simple things, like not actual code or whatever, just linking essentially. But we also got some desktop stuff. So the power off, log out options have been reorganized, so it's a little more sane, I guess you could say. It's way easier to see your system settings, like under the about section. So this is some really cool stuff, and some parental controls as well. So this is definitely one I've been trying to keep my eye on, because when I've been playing with Fedora, GNOME has grown on me, just ever so slightly. Little things that just that blew my mind about GNOME, like when you shove the not on Ubuntu. I don't think this works on Ubuntu, but on stock GNOME, when you slam the cursor up into the top left-hand corner up where activities is, like it would give you that kind of alt tab sort of behavior, and that bothered me. But as I got used to it, other little things started to slowly be okay. So GNOME is growing on me, and this is just refinement outside of the text box for the password. This has just been refinement, and it's all been pretty good.
Leo, have you tried Zorin yet?
I haven't, and mostly because Zorin feels like mint with extra flavor, like flair.
Well, they definitely use GNOME, and they've got all the features of GNOME in it, and you'd probably enjoy playing around with that.
I might give it a spin. But not till after I do Fedora and Manjaro for you guys.
Yeah, let's wait until 2004 comes out, and then they update Mint and Zorin and all the Ubuntuoids.
Nice. All right. Well, unless anybody's got some last-minute additions to the GNOME article, we'll move on to our security update. So it's actually been pretty quiet in this security section this fortnight. So we've got something that is not quite Linux yet, but something that you might want to know about. So we've been talking, well, we talked maybe a couple of months ago, 2-3 months ago, about the fact that Microsoft Edge will probably, I think that's one of my predictions, will probably make it into Linux by the end of the year. Well,
Electron app.
Well, probably. Who knows? I don't know. VS Code was Electron. Edge would probably be Electron. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it's basically Chromium anyway. So, I mean, I guess Electron wouldn't be too far-fetched. So, well, here's the thing. Douglas Leith, and he's Irish, so forgive me if I mispronounced that, with the School of Computer Science and Statistics at Trinity College, has noted that Edge sends privacy-invasive telemetry to Microsoft's back-end servers. Who would have thought that was going to happen? And this
no,
includes,
not
everybody.
Microsoft.
I know, right? This includes persistent device identifiers. So this is the thing that Firefox can use, right? They give you an identifier, and this is how they track you across the entire web, so they know exactly what you're clicking on, exactly what you're doing, regardless of whether or not you're on a Facebook asset or a Facebook site. So if there's like that little Facebook button down at the bottom, yeah, they know you're there. So that persistent device identifier information and URLs typed into pages. So if you typed in a URL, they know. Microsoft knows. And I guarantee you, there's a long list of, well, here's why Microsoft needs that information, and it's totally not for any kind of advertising or any kind of selling or third party or this or that or any. We're totally just trying to make your experience better. Yeah. So when this comes to Linux, this right here, right out of the gate, is going to be the death knell for it, as if it was going to get a lot of traction in the first place. But this is definitely going to break a lot of trust for anybody that was considering taking this on. I know I certainly was, but now I'm starting to second guess myself.
Microsoft hearts Linux.
You
Very
actually
much.
thought about installing it?
Yeah, I really did, because I was going to give it a chance. Because, Edge before the Chromium shift happened, it was really good. It was really good. I'm very sad that they stopped the development on it and just went Chromium with it.
I suppose you use Bing search too.
Ugh. On Edge, yeah, because it's the default and I don't bother changing it, yeah.
How about Bing Maps?
Bing Maps is actually not that bad. So, put me on the record on that one. It's not bad. The one thing that you don't get with Bing Maps is like that up-to-date notification that your particular route is going to be slower because there's a bunch of traffic, because nobody else uses Bing Maps, right? Google and Apple do that by figuring out how many clusters of phones are at a specific traffic light or whatever, and they're like, well, that traffic light is probably going to be slower than normal because there's 60 people there, something like that, right? So they mark it red and try to get you around that area in an alternate way. But if nobody uses Bing, Bing doesn't know that there's traffic. So yeah, I think that's
Another
going to be an
privacy
issue.
feature in Bing.
Yeah, well, everybody does that one. I think if you're turning on GPS, you already shot yourself in the foot. So the really cool thing, though, about this particular update is that my second browser, Brave, ended up being the most private browser in this entire test. And they tested Chromium, Chrome, Vivaldi, Firefox, and Firefox ended up less private than Brave. What? This is really interesting because this is coming off of Firefox adding in their Facebook fence and all of these, like every single version of Firefox has had a laundry list of privacy features. And at least in this one test, Brave came out on top. And that makes me feel real good about my number 2 choice and gives me pause. So the reason why I'm not going to flip it over is because I need Firefox to win this war. Everybody is on Chromium. Everybody. And having a monoculture is going to mess us all up on the internet. And that will basically be the death knell for any other browser trying to enter the market. If you are not a Chromium-based browser after Firefox may die, right? Let's say 3 years in the future, Firefox finally throws in the towel and becomes Chromium or just quits, right? Then no one gets to say, except the Chromium group, what the internet can be. And that is a horrible future for the internet. So, yeah. Firefox, I need you to win. Brave is beating you on privacy. I need you to step it up. I wanted to see real quick if I could find that list again. I had the list of the browsers. It was Brave, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Edge, and Yandex. Those were the browsers that were in that research, and it looked like Brave came out on top. Chrome and Firefox and Safari were in a second grouping of less good than Brave, and then there was Edge and Yandex.
So they missed Web and Midori entirely.
I don't think that was a priority at all. I don't think they were doing any of these tests on Linux or anything open source or anything like that. That was not the reason for this test. So
well, Midori is available on Windows too.
Yeah, well, popular browsers.
At this point, Firefox is not going to be a popular browser along the way it's losing share.
Yeah, it still makes the list, which is why I think it made that particular list, and it's the only non-Chromium browser that makes any list whatsoever. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox again. I guess this is going to become the normal thing for me to do. Just hop up on a soapbox, put on my tinfoil hat, and scream at people. So I'll stop doing that, at least for the rest of the episode, and we can get out of this security update and move on to our innards section. So in this section, we wanted to do this kind of in 2 parts, but we have our audio production and post-production section. So we covered this section 6 months ago. It was a while back. And I kind of feel like this is going to be a recurring theme because our equipment, however small, is probably going to change as we do more podcasting, as we get more serious or less serious or make changes to our workflow. And this is just a chance for us to revisit what we have, how we do things, why we do things the way we do, and like what we want in the future, or some issues that we found that that we have since corrected, or issues that we're still currently working through. So the main thing that I wanted to get into, at least right at the very beginning of this, is kind of our audio setup. So I've got us in order, and we just like rattle off what you got, and then we're just going to kind of comment on these things as we go on through. So Moss, we'll start with you. What do you got? What has changed since the last time?
Well, we kind of talked about it last episode, but since the last time we talked about audio, the only thing I still really have is my Zoom, not Zoom, my Blue Yeti microphone, which my little sister gave me many years ago. Let's see, I've got my Galago Pro 2 laptop given me by listener Jackie Moore. I'm going to sound like an advertisement here. I've got an Anchor USB hub, which was given me by Dale Miracle. Let's see, obviously I got to use my mouse, so I've got my M570 also from Dale Miracle. I've got a boom with a pop filter that I bought myself, amazingly enough. It was that cheap. And I think, Leo, you bought the same model, didn't you?
The same model of what now?
The boom and the pop filter?
No, I think that was somebody else, but someone else does have that same set.
So otherwise, let's see, I'm using wired headphones so that you don't get an echo off of me all the time, which is always a good thing. And of course, I've got my external monitor, which is not part of my audio. I'm using Audacity, like everyone here, and Mumble. I think that's it. What did I miss?
I think that's about it, right? You said you had a pop filter. So is the Yeti on the boom arm, right?
The Yeti is on the boom arm with a pop filter, and the boom arm and pop filter came as one item. I think it was $15.99 on eBay.
So one of the things that, because I have the Yeti as well, and that's what I used way early on when we first got started on this thing, and one thing that I had noticed with the boom arm was that the Yeti is a really heavy mic, and that boom arm kind of has to be situated just right so it doesn't sink. Do you have any issues with that on the boom arm or anything?
Nope, I don't have a problem with that. And like I say, it was a cheap boom arm.
Yeah. I think for me it was just fixed with the correct angle and a little bit of tightening of some screws seemed to fix that pretty much.
I think it was
it's
Bo
really
that
nicely
had bought the
designed.
same setup.
It could be Bo or maybe Tony Watts.
Yeah, I remember Tony Watts talking about getting something, and I remember Tony Watts and you kind of back and forthing about Neewer.
Yep, that was it. The Neewer.
So maybe it was Tony. That could be it. All right. Well, Josh, what about you? You have gone through a lot of changes as far as I remember. So what kind of setup are you running on?
Yeah, so I've upgraded my setup in the past 2 weeks, actually. So it's kind of weird that we chose to do this because I didn't actually get around to choosing this topic. But what I've got at the minute is I've got a Ryzen 5 2600 PC that I built about a year ago now. It has RTX 2060 in, which doesn't really do audio, but when I'm doing podcast live streams and stuff like that, that comes in handy. So yeah, that's the PC that I've got. No real upgrades to that because it was only built a year ago, so I don't really need to. So microphone stuff that I'm using, I was using a USB microphone by a random company called One by One. I think they're like an Amazon exclusive brand. And this USB microphone I got about 3 or 4 years ago, and I've used it ever since. It was alright, but it picked up a lot of background noise, which you probably knew about. from listening to it, and it wasn't that great. The problem that I had with it, which made me actually move away from it, is that it doesn't work anymore because it uses a micro USB port on the back of it, but that's actually like integrated into the case, and it's basically just worn down to the point where it just doesn't work anymore. So yeah, I had to get that replaced. Basically, what happens is when you plug the cable in, it like flashes up, so it doesn't actually detect anything anymore, which is a shame. So I upgraded to the Uber mic by M Audio, not related to the taxi company. And this mic was, I think, came to about £98. The reason it came to that, because if you go onto the internet, you'll probably find it cheaper. But the reason I had to get it for that price is that's the only way I could get it, like, within 2 weeks. Because Amazon were quoting a week to 2 weeks, because shipping around the world at the minute is like just crazy. So I decided to just get it from a more expensive place, and it came the day after. So that was all right for an extra £5. And the microphone is quite fancy, but it's like 3 times the size of a Raspberry Pi 4, which on the images that you see online, it just looks really small. It's about twice the size of my old microphone, and it's really, really heavy because it comes with a high quality stand that's like adds a lot of weight to it. I actually took the microphone off the stand yesterday and picked up the microphone itself, and it was like, oh, the stand basically makes up the weight of this thing. But the microphone itself has some quite fancy features. So on it, it has like a little, they say it's an LCD screen, but I'm pretty sure it's an OLED screen. And on this screen, you have information about the polar pattern. So I think the microphone, don't quote me on this, but I think it has 4 to 5 microphones in it. So if you're doing like a podcast where you just want one microphone, you can change the dial on the back that changes the polar pattern. I think there's about 5 different polar patterns you can choose from. And you can have it in an 8 configuration, so you can have up to 8 people, and it sounds like you've got 8 different mics around the room. So the screen shows that. It also has a microphone port on it, so you've got a dial for the not microphone port, a headphone port, and you've got a dial for the headphone volume. You have a mute button, which has a really weird interface to it. So when it's unmuted, it's just a blue light, but when it's muted, it just flashes blue, and it's just really confusing. You'd think it'd just be on and off, but no, that's not the way they see it. And the bottom dial on the front has it's kind of like a mix for the headphone port, so you can mix how much of the audio that the microphone is picking up and how much you want it to play back through the headphones and how much of the PC audio you want to play. So that's quite handy. And then on the back you've got microphone gain and then the polar pattern dial. And it's quite big, but it sounds good, I think. Well, I hope it sounds good. We'll have to see.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. So yeah, that's the microphone. The other thing that I have is another port that's broke. So I moved my computer to under my desk, and I stood up with my headphones plugged in, and the port of my headphones obviously like just flew out of the computer, and I think it's because I cheaped out on the PC case, and I think it's just like made the headphone port really loose, so that doesn't work anymore. So I got a really good deal from Cash Converters, home delivery, that they now do. I didn't know they even did that. Instead of paying £60 for an audio interface, I got a £20 deal on a second-hand Native Instruments Tractor Audio 2, which has 2 audio outputs, and and instead of it being a 3.5mm jack, it's one of the bigger ones. And you've got two outputs with separate dials for the volume, and it just has a one of those old printer ports, the printer USB ports that you used to use for USB printers.
Yeah, that D-shaped one.
Yeah. So that sort of port. So that's not the stupid micro USB, which I hate, which is good. And one of the reasons, well, two reasons why I got this. It was the cheapest one there. And the second reason is that it plays nice with Traktor Pro 2, which is good for like mixing songs and all of that, which is something I also do. So that's quite handy because it's obviously made by Traktor, so they integrate nice with each other. But it really just serves as a headphone kind of audio interface rather than anything else. So I've got one at the ports going into my headphones, and then a cable that goes from the audio interface into the microphone port on the back of the computer. So if I'm streaming audio from that, I can just get a direct connection into OBS. I use Audacity like most people do, but I'm going to look at maybe using Adobe Audition. So I'm going to have a play around with that, which is a bit more complicated, but we'll have a look into that this week, I think. The next purchase for the setup is probably getting an arm and a pop filter. Budget is probably around like £15 is probably the maximum I'd want to spend on that. Don't need to get anything fancy, as long as it fits the standard connector on the bottom of the microphone, it should be fine. So
I've posted the link in the Mumble to what I got and what we think it was Tony Watts or one of the other guys got.
Oh, that's yeah. I'll have a look at that then. So I might get one of those because I've been using the microphone quite a lot lately, so it might be a handy thing to have. So that is my setup. So I think Tony's next with his.
It's $15.99 in US dollars, so it's probably only about 11 or 12 pounds.
Yeah. So yeah, that should be about right. Yeah, I'll have a look at that. Thanks.
Yeah, so as far as audio and stuff, my setup hasn't changed much since we last covered this, but I'll just go over it again. I'm using a HP i7 tower that I got a few years ago from a computer auction that has now closed down, but I got a good deal at the time. My mic setup is a ProSound USB podcast mic, which I got from a bankruptcy sale a couple of years ago for about £12. I've also got a cheap boom arm and pop filter that I bought on Fleabay after starting on mintCast. This has helped reduce vibration and has improved my audio quality. I've also set the keyboard up with a key combination to mute the mic. But everything else is, pretty standard. It's a USB mic. It just plugs straight into the computer. I use a generic headset for my audio, so I can hear what's going on for the other hosts. And that's about it, really. Nothing flashy. I think I already had the PC, and the audio setup cost me about 25-30 quid. It's quite good, really. So, Joe, what about you?
Well, my setup is almost exactly the same as the last time. I'm still using the MSI GE72 6QD laptop with the Intel Core i7 6700HQ and 16 gigs of RAM. My microphone is the Samsung Meteor. I think it works great. I have a Snowball as a backup. I do have a wind filter on it, pop filter on it, and that just slides over the top. And for my headset today, I'm using the Skullcandy Hesh 3 Bluetooth headphones, just for a bit more mobility in case I need to walk around and still be able to hear what's going on. I have a cheap boom arm and extension. Both of them were from eBay. There's a 13-inch extension on the end of my boom arm, so that way the boom arm doesn't get in the way of me being able to see my laptop, because the boom arm is connected to the same table. And that's all I got. Leo, how about you?
So, some of my stuff has changed quite a bit, actually. But some of it I regret, some of it I like. So, what hasn't changed is the laptop. The T450S with the i5-5300U is still what I'm using, and it's been a workhorse since the day I got it. I love this thing. It does way more than podcasting, but for podcasting, it's fantastic. I think you can still pick these up for about $400 now. So, yeah, $300-$400, something like that. So, I was considering getting a Dell XPS. I don't know. Maybe one day.
Always considering.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just so many things that I want to buy, and then but I hate wasting money. So it takes me forever to make a decision on anything.
Don't get me wrong. The XPS 13 is a beautiful machine. I just really hate the fact that you can't upgrade the RAM.
Ooh, is it soldered in?
It's soldered in on the 13. Now, on the XPS 15, it's more standard. You can pull it out and replace it. But on the 13, you get what you get, and there's no upgrading.
I did not know that. So I was actually eyeballing the 13. So if I get
Leo,
what?
I just looked on eBay, and you can get a T450S for $250 or less.
Woo! All right.
So there's one for $113.50, but I'm not sure how well it works. I haven't checked that.
Well, so that's fantastic then. If you're looking for something to do podcasting on, well, that's the one. It's really cheap and it's really good. So give it a go. Yeah. So I guess if I get an XPS, I guess it'll be with lots of RAM in it. Anyway, back onto the topic. I'm using a Behringer UM2 USB audio interface. So this is probably the cheapest USB audio interface that you can get your hands on. This is the bit that I regret. I don't really regret what it's done for me so far. There's just a lot of noise in if you really crank up the audio and you really listen to it or whatever, you'll hear that kind of hiss in the background, and you've always got to go in and actually take that out in post, which is not really that big of a deal. It takes about a whole 30 seconds, but not the point. Point is, there's a lot of noise in the audio feed in the first place, so it's okay overall. I think our good friend Oliver Kelly has gotten the better one, the UMC 22, and that one is a lot better on the noise on the way in. And I think it's because of the preamp on the box. So if I would have spent an extra $30, I think I spent $25 on it. If I'd have spent $60, I would have been way better off, but it's not really that big of a deal, to be honest. And the one that I'm looking at is the Focusrite Solo, Scarlett Solo, something like that. I think it's $100, but it's one of the best single-in microphone audio interfaces that you can get your hands on. So if I upgrade, it'll probably be to that. So we'll see how that goes. One day in the future, I'll probably never make a decision on it. But so far, the UM2 is treating me right. If you're really on a budget, the UM2 is great. You just don't forget in post, you got to take out that hiss. For the mic, an MXL 990. This is something that I've been using for a while now, and man, I love the audio quality on it. It is fantastic. There are a ton of reviews out there that are saying that it's got a muddy kind of personality to it. It if you listen, it does. But honestly, I think it's great for podcasting. I think it gives you that kind of studio sound. After you get a little treatment, a little like wall treatment or whatever, you don't have a lot of reverb in the room that you're dealing with. It sounds off. I think it sounds great. I have not heard a single bad comment about my audio quality outside of things that I do really bad in the first place. But that's probably not the fault of the mic anyway. So it's just a fantastic mic. The 770, which is the MXL 770, is a competitor to it. But if I'm not mistaken, has other issues with it. So I went with the 990. It's treated me so well. The headphones I talked about in the Wanderings, Tascam TH02s, they're pretty fantastic for monitoring like I'm doing right now, or editing as I will do later on sometime. So yeah, really good set of headphones, cheap, and that's kind of the point. As for what's holding my mic, I've got a Samson MK10 boom stand. So I got away from the boom arms because the whole reason that you want a boom arm is so that you don't hear a bunch of noise that you get from around, on and around your desk. Well, I don't know. I will punch my desk really hard, and there's no boom arm in the world that is going to stop the sound you get from that. So instead, I went with a boom stand. Now, I mean, just imagine someone up on stage. There's a microphone sitting inside of it. It's probably like like a Behringer or something or another. But yeah, they've got those dynamic mics sitting off those. That's exactly what I've got. That's exactly what I have right now. And the other little bit that I think more than anything, more than the microphone, more than the audio interface, more than the stand, more than the laptop, way more than that. For $50, I have a I don't even know what you call this thing. I need to look it up. But it's basically just the audio treatment stuff, right? That egg crate stuff, but it's in a box. And you shove your microphone in that box. That is way more than any other thing has increased the audio quality of my voice. So if you like my voice, it's better now thanks to this amazing little box. It's a box made by a group called Troy Studio, and I don't know. I think it was like $48 or something like that when I bought it. And man, I'm telling you, and I'm harping on this because it's really important. Because everybody says, well, sound treatment, your room or whatever is more important than anything else. Well, I'm in a room that is way too big to be sound treated, at least at a reasonable cost. You can sound treat anything, I guess, but at a reasonable cost. And at $40, $45, something like that, this thing has just next level. It's next level. So anyhow, that's my setup. I love all of this. If we ever do video, I'll have to do something about this box because it actually is kind of big. But that you can fix that with camera angles. I figure I'll just like hang the camera on the box itself, and that'll fix any kind of weird issue that I have with it. But either way, so as for setups, that's what we got. Now, I wanted to move us into audio editing. And I know this is more Tony and my forte and Bo, but he is not here this time. And honestly, I was expecting Bo to go for like 30 minutes on this, on the audio setup thing. But yeah, allergies. What can you do? And yeah, so Tony, what kinds of things? I know it really hadn't changed a whole heck of a lot, but what kinds of things do we do outside of what kinds of things do we do for audio editing?
Well, I think first thing is we need to say how we actually record the show.
Very true.
Basically, we all record our own audio track locally on Audacity. Just before the show starts, we sync up, we create 20-25 seconds of silence so that we can edit out any background noise and stuff like that. And then we do a sync of the tracks by doing a 3-2-1-0, just so that whoever's doing the edit that week can actually line up all the tracks so that they all sync properly. We also, in Mumble, although it's not the best quality, we do a backup recording using Mumble, and we split that out into separate tracks so that we don't have to use the whole recording if just one person's audio fails for any reason. So that can be substituted for an individual's audio if necessary.
All right, let me jump in right here for just a small segment. And that's, now you have two things that are accessing your mic. You got Mumble and you got Audacity. And it's really important to remember that if you're using push to talk on Mumble, Audacity is going to be recording everything that Mumble doesn't pick up. So when you're not pushing to talk, which is why we use voice activation and mute keys instead of push to talk. So that way our Audacity matches our Mumble.
Yeah, that's a good point, that, Joe. So anyway, that's how we capture the audio. Once we've recorded the show and we wrap up at the end of it, we each export our own individual Audacity track to a high quality FLAC, and then we use our Google Drive account to share the audio into the drive, so whoever's editing that week can download each individual track. And then we go back to Audacity, and we use Audacity to edit the show, and we run various processes, series of compressions, noise reduction, etc. And of course, then we edit the show down to 2 episodes by cutting and pasting, etc. But basically, it's all done with free and open source software, really. Sometimes, if you've had a problem, someone's audio's cut out, it can be a little bit more difficult, but other times it can be fairly smooth and the edit process can go really easy. But if someone's audio's cut out and we end up having to snip and paste and rejoin things together, that's when it gets interesting. I'm sure Leo can tell you more about that.
Oh man, when I do the audio editing for the show, I could probably get done in like an hour per half, or maybe even 30 minutes per half. But man, like I hear stuff and I can't unhear that stuff, and then I have to go back and fix it. So I'm like Moss's chair squeaks, or anybody taking huge deep breaths that sound weird, or stuff like that. I'll go in and cut them out.
Yeah, I do that.
yeah, definitely. I have a lot of that kind of audio myself.
I've actually gone through my own audio before I've submitted it onto Google and pulled out all of the clicks, the tongue clicks, or anything like that I noticed that I might have done a lot of in the show.
Yeah,
at least I used to. I haven't done it much recently.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I have learned as I'm doing Audacity, or as I'm doing editing in Audacity, you start to know what people's waveforms look like, and that is funny to me. It's like I don't know. It's like a language, and like especially the uhs and the things that we do as people to fill time. You see them. Everybody has their own unique way of filling that time, and I find that that's what I start looking for.
Yeah, I'm the same actually.
It's really funny. It's the weirdest thing, I think, but I guess if you start doing audio editing, you'll see what I'm talking about. And it just gives you the ability to, without even listening to the audio, you know what they said, or you know what sound they made, or the noise they made, or you can tell the difference between a chair creak and and it's just really funny the
or
way
a loud
that
breath.
Yeah, exactly. You start to know what these waveforms will sound like before you ever actually hear them. I think that is the most unique thing about audio editing in general. So yeah, just with that, and to be honest with you, I've probably cut out stuff that should have stayed in. But I have gone through minutes worth of audio and just select that, gone, select that, gone, select that, gone, without even listening to the stuff, because it's most of it is pretty obvious, I think, when you're looking at it.
I don't know about you, Leo, but occasionally I will cut someone's bit of audio if there's no other way to do it, and you've been talking over each other. I try and pick the one that's the most relevant and leave that in, and silence out the person who was talking over.
Yes, that makes it sound way more natural, I think, and it does make for a better result for sure.
Yeah. So those people who listen to us on the live stream get all the bad bits, but by the time the edit comes out, then you'll think, I'm sure there was about 3 or 4 of them chatting at that time, but they've gone.
Yeah, we don't know when we're talking. We just turn on our mic and try and get a word in.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, especially when we go in those long tirades. I know I'm guilty of this all the time. But I'll go in those long tirades, and then someone's got to cut in and remind me, oh yeah, it was a show with more than one person, but it's hard because you're not in front of people, for sure.
And then there was that one time when Audacity failed us, and we forgot to turn on the mumble recording and had to fall back on the YouTube recording.
Yeah.
That's our
Oh.
That was a fun
backup.
edit.
Luckily, we'd started recording to YouTube by then.
Yeah, I think it was the
Yeah.
first show where we actually did that.
That's funny. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but I do remember having a fallback on YouTube for some content. It was pretty funny.
But overall, the audio process is fairly smooth, isn't it? I don't know what you think, Leo. You know, we're doing pretty good with the audio. The quality definitely improved as our audio setups have, kind of transitioned over the last 12 months or so.
Guys, how do you combine tracks? I don't understand that bit of it.
So, go on, Leo. I'll let you do this bit.
Yeah. So in Audacity, I guess I'll kind of give kind of an overview of how we do it in Audacity. The easiest way to do it, I think, is to you'll download all the FLACs from Google Drive or wherever you store them, and then you just throw them straight into Audacity. Audacity will process them and then stack them up. You can drag and drop them in whatever order you want. I usually just leave them however the way they go in there. And then we'll do our normal stuff, right? Our noise reduction. By the way, if you're listening to this and you want noise reduction pointers, how-tos, things like that, I've got the settings for the Audacity settings in Audacity that we use for noise reduction, just saved here, and I share them with the cast. But if you want them, I'm happy to share them with you as well. So they're not the defaults, and they seem to be pretty easy to me. Anyway, so all the tracks are in there. You go through noise reduction to take out all the weird junk. You do some compression so that like for me, sometimes I'll just get animated and I'll get like right up on my microphone. And compression is this idea that you want to take the stuff that's less quiet and the stuff that's more loud and try to normalize them a little bit, so it's not so jarring. So you don't have like a whisper and a scream, and it doesn't just blow your face off, right? So anyway, you go through that. And when I'm done doing that for everybody, you select all the tracks. You can do that with Control A, same as you do in like a Word document or something like that. And then I think it is tracks and then mix. And there's an option to mix and render to new track. And that will give you one single audio stream that is everybody's audio. So at that point, what I'll do is I will mute all of the other tracks. So if you press play, you only hear one. You only hear that new mix. So Moss, hopefully that answers your question. You just take all of them, select them all, mix, render to new track, and you get one track.
Okay, then do you delete the other tracks or?
So here's the deal. This is something that I have changed from the past. Used to, I would just get rid of it and I would have all of us in there and, I would just work from it from there. However, that bit me one time. And ever since then, I don't delete anything at all. Everything that I start with is there at the beginning all the way to the end, but I just mute them. So they don't end up in the final audio mix. But if I do need to go back, something that I cut out or some mistake that I made or whatever, the original audio will still be there, so I can just copy and paste it back into wherever I need it, if that's the case. So I end up with, this is in our Discord, in our private Discord. So if you're curious about this or whatever, I can share that image with you, or I can just get new images for you. But I had shared with Tony how many tracks I have. So this is a show that was most of us. It was Joe, Josh, Leo, Moss, Tony Hughes, Tony Watts. So that's most of us. Yeah, Bo wasn't in that one. So anyway, I had those of us that were on that show. So there were 6 tracks, plus the voice mix, plus the intro music, plus transition, plus the outro, plus some filler, and then a final mix. So that's how many tracks I had in a single edit. And those do increase because we cut the show in 2, so I have different little bits on each. So I don't know, I probably have like a dozen tracks in a given edit or something like that. And I think the real difficult part about that is just like dragging and dropping and making sure everything is in the right spot before you do that that final mix down to get the final result.
Yeah, and then once we've got the mix down, that's when we start adding in. I start adding in the transitions. So I'll go to the various segments where maybe we were moving from the bi-weekly wanderings into the into the next section, and I'll clip the track at that stage, and I'll stick in a little bit of transition music. And then once I've got all that, I'll render that down to a new track. And once I'm happy with that, that's when I'll do a final compression to level out the audio, because if you're adding in those bits, those audio levels aren't always necessarily spot on our current that week's audio, because they've been recorded years ago in some cases. And then I'll do the truncate silence, and that's what ends up as the final track. I'm pretty sure that's probably what you do, is it, Leo?
Yeah, I do the compression before the intro outro audio. I'll actually just play with those levels myself, and just to make sure that they sound right. But I mean, the end result is probably about the same, to be honest. But
it sounded to me like Leo was having all the tracks added in at once, whereas it sounds like what Tony does is add in the intro, outro, and musical transitions after he gets the voice edited.
Well, I do that as well. So I think the difference between mine and Tony's is that I will do a compression on just the voice. Then Tony will do the compression on the voice as well as the intro outro audio. But there's actually good to both ways in terms of that intro audio or whatever will actually be normalized against your voice without ever having to think about it. The way that I do it, I'm actually having to manually fiddle with the toggle there before I actually do the final mix down. So Tony's might actually be a little bit easier.
Yeah, so you play around with the gain, don't you, to change the level of the intro and the outro and the transitions?
Yep, I definitely do.
Yeah.
I think the last little bit, I think it was almost a throwaway line, but Tony mentioned the truncate silence, and I swear to you, that is the one bit that makes us actually sound professional. It removes out all that dead silence, and I mean, for the most part, we don't have a ton of that, but there are moments in the show, and if you go back to the YouTube and watch the recording of the live show, you'll catch them all. But in the final edits, the things that we push out to the podcast catchers, those don't have any of them. Yeah. And it really makes it sound better.
Yeah. Just to say one thing, Leo, some of those silences you put in deliberately so that we've got a point where we can do the transitions and things like that, so that it's easier to clip the audio and separate the track and put in those transitions. So it's given us a point where we can find it and make it easier, rather than only having about a 0.25 of a second where we can try and clip the track in.
Yes. So for those listening on the live show, there's like some dead silence, maybe for about 2 to 5 seconds or whatever between sections of the show. Yeah. Bear with us on those, because those are just for us to make audio editing easier later.
Yeah. Now I do have a question. You were talking about adjusting the gain for the transitions and the music and everything to make it sound more normal to everything else. Are you also using normalize?
No. So what he's talking about there is on the left-hand side of the track, you see there are two sliders. There's a LR, which is the left and right speaker, and then the one above it, which is just a minus and a plus. Depending on what our voices sound like, I'll, anywhere from +5 to -5, and it really just kind of depends on how loud I want that audio coming in. Because we do that thing at the very beginning of the show where we'll put in, 5 seconds of something dumb that we said or whatever right before. And if what we're saying is kind of on the quiet side, I don't want to crank that all the way up, because if it's a whisper or something like that, it's meant to be quiet. And I don't want to push the the audio to be, super loud. So I don't want it to be jarring. That's really what I'm playing with, and that's why the audio will be, that's why we'll mess with that gain, or while I'll mess with that gain a little bit, to that way you're not just blown out whenever you're listening to it.
Yeah, sometimes I'll use the gain and sometimes I'll use compression or even normalize. It just depends on what fits for that particular piece of audio. But I think you get into a kind of pattern that works for yourself. We might use similar settings in compression and noise reduction and things like that, but you get into a way of working. So we may not both do exactly the same steps or in exactly the same order, but it ends up coming out with the right result at the end.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, right? I mean, audio editing is as much a science as it is an art. I mean, there are things that we do that, yeah, not everybody does. It's like Tony said. So if it works for you, continue to do it. As long as you end up with a really good product that you're happy with at the end of the day, I think, yeah, it's fine. Gain or compression, doesn't matter, so long as it sounds good.
Yeah, and I think the audio quality's acceptable. It might not be perfect every week, but I think it's acceptable for the listeners. We don't seem to be getting many moans about it these days.
Yeah, I was going to say, I haven't heard anybody complain about the audio quality. Quite the opposite, actually.
Well, I asked Joe Resington about it, and he said he's had too many podcasts to listen to, so he probably hasn't even heard ours lately.
He's big and professional and way past mintCast anymore, I think.
Yeah. We love you, Joe.
Yeah, we do. We still do. One of the things, the last thing that I'll say, and the whole reason why we brought up our setups in the very beginning, is that you cannot have a good sounding podcast if you don't have good sounding audio from the get-go. If you have really bad audio, if there is like stuff that you cannot get out in post, there's no fixing it. There's absolutely no fixing it. If you kick the desk in the middle of a phrase that you're saying or something like that, you're just gonna have to re-record that phrase, because there's no way. I guarantee you the first thing you're gonna want to do is go to Google and be like, how do I get out really loud sounds out of the middle of audio or something like that? And you're gonna find out really quickly that it is impossible to do and have it sound exactly as if it didn't happen. So yeah, that's the thing, right? This is why I was talking about room treatment and all that as well. If you don't have good source audio to work with, you're going to have a really, really hard time having a good output, no matter how good you are with Audacity. Or if you spend extra money on, what is the Adobe one? Not Premiere, but the audio one, whatever that is. Sony SoundForge, things like that, right? Doesn't matter how much money you spend on it. It doesn't matter. You're going to come out with really bad audio in the end. So focus on recording and then worry about post later.
Yep, if your microphone is pointed at a hard wall, you're going to get some echo and sound like me. This episode and last episode, I had a pillow in front covering most of the mirror, and I sound a little bit better.
Yeah. Can I just say,
a lot of it. Go ahead.
I was going to say, can I say that, quality of audio doesn't necessarily equate to expensive. Most of us on here have said we've got reasonably priced equipment that's probably in the reach of most people who listen to the show. Like I said,
you definitely don't need the greatest laptop in the world. I've done it from a tablet. Yeah. As long as you have a decent microphone, it could be sub $50. I think the Snowball I was able to get for sub $30, and the Meteor was around $40. But decent mic, USB mic, either that or you can use an okay like gaming headset, as long as you're using a USB DAC, and it'll come out sounding good.
Yeah, I put a link in the show notes to my Pro Sound mic, which is still on sale on eBay, and even retail price on eBay, it's still under £30. Like I say, I got mine in a bankruptcy sale for £12, but you can still buy them, and they're still reasonably priced.
Yeah, I was really on about this this box that I have my microphone in. But I mean, to be honest with you, you could make one for free. If you have, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pillows. If you've got 5 pillows, or like body pillows or something like that, you can recreate what I've got. This is not something that you absolutely have to buy. I just bought it because it's nice and portable, and I don't have to break it down ever.
Mm.
So yeah, you just want something that'll absorb sound around you. Anyway, I think we've dotted our I's and crossed our T's, don't y'all?
Yeah,
Yep.
I think we've done it.
Let's go vibrate.
All right, vibrations it is. So let's head that way. All right, first up is Tony Cierna, and he's mailing Joe. So Joe, take it away.
Yep. He says, "Hi Joe, I miss the old mintCast shows, and that I miss the musical denotations between segments and the start and finish of the shows. It's very drab the way it is now." Tony. Now, I know there might have been a show or two where we missed it, but I think mostly we have done it.
I think he's talking about the live shows, Joe. They used to actually do all the headers and intersperses on the live show.
Yeah, we don't do that in the live show.
Yeah, so this is something that I've really kind of wanted to fix. And I think I'd mentioned it a few shows ago. I just have not gotten around to it. But I've got a little keyboard with a bunch of little pads on it that I can cue up the music on and all that. So
Yeah.
if I can find some time, and it seems like I'm probably gonna have some time in these next few weeks, I'll look into that and see if we can't reintegrate that music back into the show.
Well,
Thank you, COVID-19.
Yay!
You already are using a second computer for the live stream. So if you take that keyboard, and I know you're in a different room, but run a USB or whatever, somehow even SSH into it, and then run the commands from there, it should play it over our audio as well.
I might give that a go too. Yeah, for sure. It would have to be SSH because we're talking, I think I'm like 80 feet away.
Yeah. So if you can get them to play over SSH, it should output to the live stream and us.
Cool. All right, and to Joe again. Next up is Kevin Wisher.
Now, this is one that I thought we had talked about on the show.
I think we
And
have,
I
actually,
guess,
Joe.
yeah, but we didn't put it in the show notes. And at the end of this, K Wisher responded again and said, "Hey, why didn't you talk about this one on the show?" So I'm bringing it up now. I'm making sure it's covered. Like I said, I know we, at least as a team, discussed it and went over what he was talking about. So Kevin Wisher says, "Hello all. At Joe B, the Discs app you are complaining about missing from Ubuntu Cinnamon can easily be installed from the repos of about any distro. On Ubuntu flavors, it is simple. Apt install GNOME disk utility. I use gparted and fdisk as they all have their specific functions for me on Ubuntu." So this was the episode where we were reviewing Ubuntu Cinnamon Remix. And I responded, "Yeah, I did install that right after the show. I had wanted to stay as close to stock for the utilities as possible for the show. Thank you. I have used fdisk on occasion, but it is not in my list of things that I make sure I have installed, especially with gparted. If you don't mind my asking, is there a use case for installing it that I have not thought of?" And then Kevin Wisher responded, "fdisk should be installed by default on most distros. It's just another tool in case you don't have access to a GUI partitioner or the graphical DE. You should learn to use it as it works for headless installs." And he's right, you should learn to use it, but this was also like right after I had been studying fdisk specifically because I didn't know that that gparted and disks could do 8 terabyte drives without causing issues, because I've had problems with 4 terabyte drives in the past. So I had just studied up on fdisk again. And I am sorry if we missed this, but we got it now. Thank you for reminding us.
And as far as disc goes, I think we were going we were coming at that from the angle of what is there by default, because there's this idea that there's tyranny of the default. What is there is what's there, and most people are not going to go out of their way to add some things, especially if they are not familiar with the tools. So I think that's the angle that we were coming at. It's been a while. It's been probably a couple of months now.
Right. I installed applications that I use because that's what you do. But when it came to utilities, I tried to stay stock until after the show.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, next up we have one from Brad, and he says, "Hey, I was listening to your latest podcast this afternoon, and as a fan of the Diablo type games, I decided to also check out Victor Vran. Someone mentioned it was almost $40 on Steam right now. I thought I'd let you know that you can currently get the game over at Good Old Games with all DLC for just under $11. It even comes with a Linux installer. Great show. Keep up the great work."
All right. So I want to comment here again.
Go ahead.
I did. I checked it out on GOG. I haven't bought it because I bought Borderlands 3, and that's taking up my time. But it's not at $11 right now. Last I looked, it was at $6 for all DLC. So if you want Victor Vran, go get it.
Yeah, it was. I think it's $5.99 for the base game, and then there was a couple of DLCs that you get. I don't know if the base
there were
game
two other DLCs, but if you read the description on the one that was $5.49, it actually says that it has the DLCs.
Okay, yeah, nope, that sealed the deal. I was telling, I think I emailed Brad back, and I was like, for $6, I might pick it up or whatever. I might get the DLC later or whatever. But if it really comes with the DLC, I'm done. Yep, I gotta go get it.
At least that's what the description looked like when I read it.
$6, it can wait, right? Like, it can just hang out in the library until I'm ready for it, because Diablo 3 new season came out, Path of Exile new season came out, so as far as ARPGs go, I might be a little busy, but yeah, so as soon as I'm done with getting the achievements or whatever in those, I will definitely check out Victor Brand. Thank you, Brad. Then next up we have Henrik Hemrin, and he says, in the vibrations, he said Linux is more difficult than other OSs. As a short statement, I tend to agree. For starters, it is more difficult because you almost always need to install it from scratch, which is not normally needed for other OSs. But as a user, I think it must not be much more difficult to use a Linux operating system like Mint than maybe Mac OS or Windows. You can do difficult things with Linux, maybe more difficult things than in other operating systems. I'm not sure if the difficult topics you cover in mintCast would be easier to execute in Mac OS or Windows. Maybe some of those difficult actions actually are easier in Linux, as Linux generally is open source. Just a reflection. And so this was on the mintCast site itself, so I messaged back. I think you're right. Installation is probably the only reason it's harder. Reinstallation is sometimes needed for Windows and Mac, but a lot of times people tend to just default to that one friend that knows computers, or just take it to a repair shop. Essentially taking the path of least resistance. I think that is that's the biggest part of all of that. I mean, like, if you're running on Windows, you're probably not that great with computers in the first place. I mean, this is just the majority of people that I talk to on a regular basis. It's just like, if Chrome doesn't open up, I don't know what to do. Like, you're at a loss. So if you're in that group, yeah, of course you're not going to be installing operating systems. Of course Linux is going to be hard. But I think this is coming off of us talking about the innards topics being too complex for a lot of people. And I mean, you're already on Linux. You're already knee deep. If you're looking for a podcast on Linux or whatever, you're already knee deep in this stuff. So a little bit of fdisk here, a little bit of df there is not going to scare you away. So I think that's where all that was coming from. And I follow on with that. I say Mac and Windows tend to hold your hand a lot more, or just plain ignore security risks, which lend to the appearance of a less difficult experience. This is actually a big source of why distributions are different. Thanks for your thoughts. So yeah, I think, like with the Windows UAC, is just like, hey, do you want to do this? And nobody ever reads it. Nobody ever reads it. They just click yes, because they know that clicking yes is going to give them the result that they want. So they never think about it. Ever. And while you get similar things in both Mac and Linux, you have to type in your password. So hopefully that little extra step of having to type makes you think twice about doing what you're doing. So just weird defaults sometimes, and it gives you the appearance of it being easier, but sometimes it's not. You're shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
one thing that's bothered me about Zorin OS. Something they need in Windows that they don't need in Zorin OS is when you try and install something that's not from your repo, they give you a big red stripe saying, "Are you sure you want to do this? This could be dangerous."
Yeah, I was just going to say this is one of the things that holds back the uptake of people using Linux. If there was more computers available in big box stores with Linux already pre-installed, then it's probably no different than Mac OS or Windows. If it did the job that people wanted it to, then people would buy it and use it.
Yep, especially if that OS was like Ubuntu 1804 or 2004 when it comes out. Yeah.
Or Linux Mint.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know why I wouldn't say that on this show, but yeah, and it would just truck along for 5 years, and you would never have to think about it, like ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. I mean, the install I'm on right now is, I think I only reinstalled once since we started this show, so this install is probably a year old by now, and I've not had a single problem with it. I've installed crazy PPAs and a bunch of other stuff, and ripped that out and put other stuff in its place, whatever. And nothing.
And
I just recently
inline updates.
yeah, just updates. That's pretty much it. And then I just recently started, really being religious about my my time shifting. So yeah, I mean, even if it does, it's pretty easy to come back.
Cool.
Anyhow, next up, John Wallace, and he says, "Dear mintCast team, I would appreciate your advice, please, regarding implementing the following Linus security audit recommendations." So to preface this, I think John Wallace has written to us before about some of the security things that he has run. There is a security auditing software that he's been using to kind of give him pointers on how to secure up his system. And so he's got some more questions for us. Anyway, number 1, access to cups configuration could be more strict. Number 2, check what deleted files are still in use and why. Number 3, you are advised to hide the mail name option SMTPD banner from your postfix configuration. Use postconf-e or change your main.cf file. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you and kind regards. So the interesting thing about this is that I think the auditing software that he's using is it just gives you recommendations based off of what they consider to be best practice. So here are my answers regarding this. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, so number 1, regarding the cups thing, I say I need to know a little bit more about how cups is configured in the first place. Also, what is Linus's preferred configuration of cups? How strict do they want it to be? Because with cups, you can just run a single command and it will listen for anybody on the entire network and just print whatever they say. So maybe that's how you actually want it. And I imagine the security auditing utility is going to come in and be like, hey, this is not good. You should never, ever allow your printer to be printed to by anybody in a specific network or whatever. So it really depends on what your target is. What is your use case? And then you need to take into consideration the types of security that you want. Maybe you do allow cups to broadcast out and say, yeah, and I'll take printing from anybody. But then you follow that up with a whitelist firewall rule that says these IP addresses can access the machine running cups on this port. So a lot of times you can't just dive into security and expect there to be one right answer. There is never, ever one right answer to any particular thing, which is why security is so hard, which is why you see multi-billion dollar companies getting knocked over every single week. It is not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. And if you think it is, I think what you're going to run into a lot of times is, I've mentioned it before on the show, there's a slider, right? There's usability on one end, there's security on the other end, and you're going to end up with usability all the way over, and then you're going to get knocked over on security. Or you're going to move the security thing all the way to the security side of things, and then you'll never be able to use your thing because you've air-gapped everything. So there's always a happy medium, and that happy medium is not the same for everybody. So anyway, I'll continue on. I'll get off my soapbox again. I'll get off my soapbox. So number 2, regarding the deleted files thing, I say more info again here. Linus may just be paranoid. Does it give you any info on what deleted files it's referencing, or is it just general advice to clean up old files just in case? So yeah, this is kind of hard for me to get a lock on because I don't know what files it's talking about, but there are always unused files, right? Like Joe was mentioning before that you probably want to do an auto remove every now and then on your machine to get rid of old kernels and stuff like that. Maybe that's what it's talking about, and those will still be linked, right? Those will still be linked to Grub, but you've not booted into that kernel for months. So maybe that's what it's talking about, and in that case, an auto remove will fix that for you. But that I need way more context for that particular one. Now this last one, the postfix thing. If you're running a mail server, which I do not recommend anybody do, mail is hard. Mail is really hard. So I do say, this is good advice. If you're running a mail server, it's not normally a great idea to broadcast out a ton of information about the server itself. But by default, postfix doesn't show a banner with the version in it, if I remember correctly. You should probably be fine with the defaults there. So if your SMTPD banner, that is so hard to say, banner is exposing a version number, yeah, you want to turn that off. You do not want people to be able to poke your server and be like, oh, postfix version this, therefore I go to Metasploit and see what kind of exploits there are for that particular version of postfix, and then just load that up and boom, now I have root on your mail server or something like that. So anyway, with all security questions, lots of context always helps out when asking questions like those. So the more you can give me, the more I can help out. Anyway, hopefully that at least sets you on the right track, John. And yeah, we'll move on to the next one. So the next one is James Daldry, and he says, "Hi Leo and Co. The odd man out on partitioning was Commodore. The Amiga hard drive file system allowed for 8 primary partitions. My incredibly stretched A100 had 2 SCSI hard drives with 8 partitions each, so I had 16 little chests of drawers on my workbench screen. Also, the 3.5-inch drive for the Commodore 64 allowed for partitioning the 880K floppies." Woo-hoo. So I think this is just coming up a conversation about some older hardware that we were talking about, and man, oh man, that stuff is cool. So anyway, he goes on, the "you do not have permissions" thing. To see those magic words, you're already in the command line. Nothing in the clicky menus will bring up a permission notice. If you are operating outside the menu system, you are not Miss Newbie. So I think this is going again on the conversation that we were having before about newbies being scared away by the technical things that we talk about. So yeah, I think he's definitely right on that. So I write back, "Man, I wish I could see that beast in action. Do you have any of that hardware still?" So I'm curious. I want to know if he has any more of that because that would just be really cool to talk about on the show. Even if it's just pictures and stuff, that would be cool. Anyway, I mentioned, you're right about the permissions issue. One of the things we didn't mention in the previous shows is that the biggest reason for people to default to the command line and not the graphical user interface is that the command line works the same on every distribution, even including other shells. So it doesn't matter if you're on Ubuntu, on Fedora, on Zorin OS, on, I don't know, any old random old distro that you get your hands on. And on those distros, if you're using Bash, which most of us are, or Zish, or C Shell, or Fish, or any other shell, you're already entering advanced territory, and yeah, you're not a newbie. But the commands that we give you in those deeper dives, they'll work on all of those distributions. So, go ahead.
Leo, I wanted to bring up that on our last Distro Hoppers Digest, we got an email from someone that wanted us to get a 32-bit machine and review Mandrake 7 or 8.
Oh my God, that would be cool.
It would be, but who's going to go buy another 32-bit machine and load Mandrake 7 or 8 on it?
Well, you don't need to get a 32-bit machine. A 64-bit machine should run a 32-bit OS.
Well, yeah, but that wouldn't be the same experience as running it on the hardware that the OS was meant for.
The experience that you're going to get on a box that is only 32-bit is going to be pretty abysmal. You might want to go get a Pinebook Pro.
Well, I remember I ran mine on a 486DX266, and he was talking about getting a Pentium 70 or 80.
Woo. Well, I will say, though, that as long as there haven't been major version changes between then and now, the commands that we've been talking about all the way up to this point with Bo's innards they'd work on Mandrake 7 and 8 too. So that is the beauty of the command line. That is why I think a lot of people in Linux really push people to use the command line, because they don't have to ask that question. Are you on Linux Mint? Are you on Debian? Are you on Ubuntu? Are you on this? Are you on that? And then the inevitable, I don't know, how do I check? Right? Like you get around a lot of that by using the command line. Now, I know that there is certainly credence to the fact that, I mean, it's easier to do in the GUI. You can just show them how to do it. Click, 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 easy peasy. But still, command line will be the same no matter what you're doing it on. So you get a wider array of help if you can just ask general Linux questions as opposed to, well, how do I do this in Linux Mint? So yeah, it's one of those things. All right, James again said, let me see here. I found that sometimes I'm visiting a Google property through a VPN. The browser will stall with fonts.googleapis.com in the lower left corner. Apparently, Google doesn't want us visiting through a VPN. They're banking on the idea that most people don't know that a web browser will operate perfectly okay without external fonts. It's part of the www spec. So I just added fonts.googleapis.com to my host file. Voila, back to normal. I said, thanks for the tip. I haven't run into the issue. I wonder if it has anything to do with which VPN you're using or VPN endpoint. In other words, some IPs may be treated differently than others. Do you connect your VPN physically close to you or somewhere far, far away?
I've been seeing in a lot of the distros I load, especially in Farron, it says Nodo Sans font not found, and I can't find any way to add that in.
Oh, I think Nodo is, I don't know. I just go to like Google Fonts and just download them all and then just double click them all and they all install.
Okay, I've looked for a lot of answers to that and not seen a simple solution.
Well, download it, double click it, click install. Done. Yay! Maybe. I don't know. You use a lot of weird distros. Some of those distros don't come with that little font installer thing. Mint does, though. And David Yutzi says, I was on the LM site and saw that a version of Linux Mint was released that is based on Debian versus Ubuntu. I get why they would want to do that, but curious what your thoughts are on this seemingly subtle change, but possibly significant for the future of Linux Mint. So I write back and I say, LMDE has been around for a while. A while ago, Clem mentioned LMDE as what Mint would be without an Ubuntu base. It's a really good project, especially for those that love Debian or hate Ubuntu, but still want the Mint fanciness. If Ubuntu makes changes that the Mint team just cannot abide for whatever reason, LMDE is the escape hatch. Honestly, I'm glad they're working on it. I would hate to see Mint and its simple but useful changes go away. Sane defaults are the way to go. Or tyranny of the default.
Yeah, when Linux Mint Debian Edition originally came out, it was actually a way of getting a rolling release because it was based on SID. But they were
that's right.
They were getting so many problems with it, they decided to go with stable. And that's why we only get it when Debian's done a stable release. So we only get a new Linux Mint Debian Edition now every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, but you said it. You said the SID word, and SID was never going to work.
Yeah. Particularly as a lot of people who got into Linux Mint in them days were probably fairly new users who weren't very technical. So if SID managed to break your system, they probably didn't have a clue how to rescue it at that
For
time.
Sure. Oh, yeah. But now there's time shift, so maybe that would fix it. Huh, maybe they can go back to SID now. Anyway, the last email we got is Brian Aykroyd, and he says, I'm still listening to the podcast, but you mentioned file transfer between computers. Have you tried Magic Wormhole? I said I haven't, but I'm intrigued. Does it do detection of other devices using Magic Wormhole? Time to go look it up. Thanks for the suggestion. So I did a cursory look on it, and it doesn't look like it does the thing that Warpinator was going to do, which is like if two people have Warpinator open, it will detect them, and then you just like drag and drop files in between. And so Magic Wormhole will allow you to do the drag and drop, but it doesn't do the detection. So I think that there is a bit of a difference between the two, but Magic Wormhole does look pretty awesome as far as just getting files where you want them to go and not having to worry about how it's going to get there or how big the file is or whatever the deal may be. So if you're interested and you want something before Warpinator is out, Magic Wormhole seems like a pretty decent suggestion. I've got that in my check this out, so I'll probably skip over that here in a minute. All right, well, that's it for our feedback. So let's head to check this out. All right, I'm mostly going to skip over it, but I have Brian Aykroyd's suggestion of Magic Wormhole as a link down here, just in case you want something to click on to get to it. All right, but Moss, what do you got for us?
Well, this is all It's Foss, as I frequently do. It's Foss has a video on when to use apt update or apt upgrade. If you're a newbie and you're wondering about this stuff, then please check it out. Also, there's a new pixel editor, open source, called Pixelorama. It's been released. There's a link in the show notes. It looks like it's really cool. And if you're upset about Google and you don't know about OpenStreetMap, you can check it out. It's Foss has an article on that with links. That's all I got.
On the apt update, apt upgrade, or whatever, we got some pretty good tips on that. So just join us in the Telegram, in the Discord, on the YouTube chat, on Twitter, tweet at us, whatever. We've got a bastion of information, and the people in Telegram and Discord are actually pretty smart as well. So swing by. If you've got those questions and you're listening to this show, swing by. We will help answer those questions for you in real time. All right, well, that'll do it for our Check This Out. So we'll head to the announcements. Just one announcement, and that is our next episode will be at 2 p.m. Central U.S. time, 7 p.m. UTC on April 5th of 2020. That's 8 p.m. British Summer Time, because y'all will be going through a time change. So thanks, Londoner. I hope I got that right.
You did.
Yay! All right, and the last little bit is where can we find each other outside of this show? Joe, where can we get more of you?
Well, I'm on a couple other podcasts. That's the Linux Link Tech Show, which you can find at www.tllts.org. I'm also on the Linux Lugcast at www.linuxlugcast.com. And we just recorded this last Friday, and listener Kay Wisher was on there. You should check it out. You can hit me up on MeWe or send me an email, jb@mintcast.org. If you want to send me some hardware, broken headphones, old laptops, tablets you're not using, whatever, send me an email, and I will get back to you with an address. And let me know what you're planning on sending to, please.
Awesome. And Bo is not here this time around. Allergies. But you can find him at the undercastnetwork.com. No, I said that weird. Undercastnetwork.com.
And
Moss,
sometimes at Electric City Nerds.
Ah, true that. Moss, what about you?
You can find me at Triad Bardic College, on Peaceful Hippo, MeWe. My music is on Bandcamp, and my YouTube channel, or Robert Warren's YouTube channel. I'm working on a combined audio channel on LBRY, which is at Moss Music. You can email me at moss@mintcast.org or at distrohoppersdigest@gmail.com. And I have a sponsor. As I mentioned earlier in the show, I actually have a sponsor now. Yay!
Yay! And Tony Hughes, what about you?
Yeah, you can find me at Hacker Public Radio. I'm host ID 338. I do an occasional blog, and I might even actually get around to creating a couple, given a bit of free time. And that you can find me at tony-hughes.blogspot.com. I'm on Twitter, TonyH1212. You can get me at distrohoppersdigest@gmail.com or th@mintcast.org.
And Tony Watts is not here either, but you can get him at tw@mintcast.org or find him Echoes of Savages, the band. Josh, what about you?
You can get me Josh at mintCast.org, Josh at edgebox.org, edgebox.org, Bitcast, and All About Code on Twitter.
And make sure to send a bunch of email to josh at mintcast.org about his audio quality.
Please do.
And for me, leochavez.org. I promise there's actually a post coming out here pretty quick. And at Leo Chavez on Twitter. And you can get your 5-minute news digest at Full Circle Weekly News. Turns out I'm actually going to get caught up here pretty soon. Anyway, but before we leave, we want to make sure to acknowledge some of the people who make mintCast possible. Hobstar for his work on the new logo. Josh for all his work on the website. Hacker Public Radio for the Mumble server we are using to record. Bytemark Hosting for hosting mintcast.org in our Mumble server. Archive.org for hosting our audio files. And of course, the Linux Mint development team for the fine distro we love to talk about every fortnight.
Thanks, Clem.
Thanks, Clem.
Thanks, Clem.
And Co.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to change the ending again because once again, we're not using the HBR
Yeah, not using HPR today.
It'll be all right.
I should just really start putting random craziness where I know Leo's going to read and see what happens.
Do it. Do it. It's going to end up in the show, and we'll all have a laugh. But,
Linuxstool.com.
Yeah. We could just reword that, right? Like the Hacker Public Radio for the Mumble server we never use anymore.
Well,
we use it.
Yeah, it's the first week without using it.
Yeah.
And we used it yesterday, so.
True that.
We did.
Okay, well, I'm going to shut off my Audacity.
Yeah, I've already done it. I'm already
seems like a good
exporting.
God, you guys. Now Tony's not going to have anything to clip and put on the beginning and the ending of the show.
Well,
I've still got
the mumble recording.
Yeah, don't worry.
True.
Don't worry.
What number is this?
331.
540.
540. Got it.
Got it.
There's already a folder for 331 audio.
All right, guys, I'm going to export and get the heck out of here pretty quick.
Right, Leo, audio editing.
Yes.
Do you want to split it this time, or do you want me to do both?
We could probably split it. Which half are you thinking?
I'll take the first one. You take the second.
I bet I can make that happen.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Competition. Let's see who sounds
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. It's on now.
Actually, we should make Josh do it.
I'll do it sometime.
Brilliant.
Isn't that what we
Wait.
do?
Do what? Sorry, I missed that last bit.
Make Josh do it. Isn't that what we do? Whoever is gone for a while, it's their turn.
Oh, yeah.
Where's the audio?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Here we go.
Oh, we're in the wrong place. Right. Export it to the right place.
So you happy to be out of school now, Josh?
Yeah, it's good. Bit of a weird week though, with like the cancelling exams and all of that. But like, what can you do, really? Yeah, it's going to be good to have a few months of finishing off some stuff.
Now let me ask you. Doesn't your exams kind of help you with college placement?
I'm not actually going to college. So I'm doing an apprenticeship at a software development company, starting in August. So I've already got that sorted. So it wasn't really looking like my exams were gonna like affect what I wanted to do too much anyway. So the way they're gonna grade them is like off teacher assessment and where teachers think we should have been when we did our exams. So who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, all the stuff you've already accomplished. I wonder how much college would help.
Well, I think I was gonna find college a bit boring as well. So I didn't.
At least the first 2 years.
Yeah, so I kind of opted not to go there and do this instead.
Well, Joe, the English system is a bit different from ours.
Yeah, so our college.
Yeah.
So your college is our university. So we only do 2 years of college after high school. So until you're 18, and then you are out of mandatory education.
Okay.
Okay, we've got 3 audio files in the folder.
All right,
Halfway.
guys.
2 years.
Ooh. I'm gonna
2
go
years
kill
of
the,
college here counts as an associate's degree,
Right.
and then 4 years is a bachelor's degree. I don't know.
Yeah, that's university.
Well,
Yeah.
what you call university, we'd probably call working on the masters.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go kill the live stream. So you guys have a good one. I will see y'all soon. Catch up. in
Thanks,
Discord.
everyone who listened.
Bye.
Yay! Bye.
Yeah.
I see my file, Josh's file, and Joe's file.
Yeah, mine's on the way.
Okay, guys, well, have a good day. Thanks for another great show. Thanks for having me along.
Yeah,
And
it's been good.